Imagine for a moment that you are walking through a quiet Japanese village centuries ago. The night is cool, the scent of pine and earth drifts through the air, and the faint glow of lanterns spills across wooden steps. A hush lies over the land, broken only by the rustle of silk as a robe shifts in the breeze and the soft creak of a wooden gate closing. You expect silence, but instead you hear a sound you did not anticipate, the soft chime of a temple bell carried across the valley. It is not loud or commanding. It is steady, soothing, almost like a heartbeat echoing from the mountains. And here, my friend, is the gentle twist. When we think of ancient Japan, we often picture the clash of samurai swords, the thunder of hooves, the strict discipline of warriors. Yet beneath that armor, alongside those swords, life was threaded with quiet rituals, soft prayers, and the steady rhythm of temples. The samurai, so often remembered for combat, also sat cross-legged in meditation, listened to the whispers of bamboo leaves, and sought harmony with teachings that promised peace. Their world was not only forged in steel, but woven in silence. Stay with me, because in a moment you'll see why this balance between strength and serenity defined life in a way that still lingers like incense in memory. Step with me onto a narrow path lined with stone lanterns. The lanterns are simple, carved from gray rock, their edges softened by moss. They do not blaze, they glow faintly, each one carrying just enough light to guide your feet. Above, tall cedars lean inward, their branches sign like old friends. A samurai passes by you, his sandals brushing gravel, his armor covered by a plain robe. He bows toward the temple ahead, not in display of power, but in humble respect. Doesn't it surprise you gently to see strength wrapped in reverence? In a world where we expect only conflict, there is quiet discipline, a devotion to something greater than the self. Let's turn the lamp lower, as if we are sitting together on a wooden veranda. Beyond us, a small garden spreads, stones arranged with care, sand brushed into flowing lines, a single pine tree standing patient through the years. You hear the faint trickle of water from a bamboo fountain, the hollow clink as it fills and tips. This is not a battlefield, but it is a place where battles of another kind were faced, internal ones of pride, of fear, of doubt. The samurai trained their bodies, yes, but they also trained their minds, and temples quiet and enduring, were the sanctuaries where they remembered to breathe. As you breathe with me now, slowly and unhurried, imagine the fabric of daily life in ancient Japan. A farmer returning from his rice field, his hands rough but his steps steady. A child running across a wooden bridge, laughter spilling behind him like river spray. A monk sweeping fallen leaves from temple steps, each motion deliberate and unhurried. And above it all, the mountains, watching silently, their slopes often hidden by mist. Life here was not loud. It unfolded gently, steadily, as natural as the turning of seasons. Doesn't that rhythm feel safe to carry with you? As if the whole world itself were exhaling in time with your breath? Stay close, because every few steps along this story, we will find new contrasts. Think of the samurai at dawn, rising with discipline, his armor polished, his sword sharpened. Hours later, that same man kneels before a temple altar, offering incense, his head bowed. This is not contradiction. It is completeness. Strength and softness coexisted, each shaping the other. The sword was carried with the same care as a prayer bead, each an extension of a vow. And here's a question that beckons. What is true strength, the clash of steel or the stillness of spirit? In the next breath, we'll begin to follow the answer. But for now, let that question rest lightly with you, like a feather drifting in the air. Picture with me an evening deep in the countryside. A house stands with its sliding doors open to the night air. Inside, a family gathers by lamplight. The father, perhaps once a warrior, unrolls a scroll to read a poem. The mother sets bowls of rice, steam curling upward. Children play with carved toys, their laughter subdued by the stillness outside. Beyond the walls, a temple bell tolls again, reminding everyone of the passage of time, of the continuity of life. There is no rush. The night moves slowly, inviting peace. Doesn't feel like stepping into that house. Sitting quietly with them might be enough to soften even the busiest heart. Stay with me a little longer, because there's another image I want you to carry into this night. Imagine a temple at dawn, its roof sweeping upward like wings. Monks move silently across the courtyard, robes brushing the stone. A samurai enters, bowing deeply, his presence not disruptive but harmonious. He carries his sword, yes, but he leaves his pride at the threshold. Inside, chants begin low and resonant, filling the air with vibrations that seem to hum in your bones. Outside, the world stirs. Roosters crow, water flows. But here, in this sacred space, time feels suspended. Isn't it soothing to think of strength bent towards silence, discipline surrender to stillness? Let's turn once more to the night. The samurai has returned home. He sits on his veranda, gazing at the garden. The moon glows pale over the rooftops, brushing silver across the tiles. The air smells faintly of pine and earth, of water carried through bamboo channels. He does not speak. He simply breathes. And in his breath is the story of an entire world. A world where warriors prayed, where temples held space for peace, where the clash of blades was never louder than the whisper of wind through cedar trees. And so, my friend, as we close this hook and prepare to wander deeper into the story, let me promise you this. What lies ahead will not be hurried nor harsh. We will walk through gardens, sit in temples, travel with warriors, listen to poems, and pause in mountain villages. Each chapter will carry us further, not into noise, but into calm, into the textures of daily life, the balance of strength and serenity that shaped ancient Japan. For now, rest in this moment. On the threshold of the temple, the lanterns glowing, the bell chiming softly in the distance. Together, we will step forward, and gently the story will unfold. Imagine waking with the first blush of dawn spilling across the horizon, soft and pink, painting the paper screens of a wooden house. The air is cool, almost brisk, carrying the scent of pine smoke from nearby hearths. You stir beneath a cotton quilt, the faint rustle of fabric accompanying your breath. Beyond the sliding doors, a world begins to stir, but it does so gently, without rush or demand. In ancient Japan, mornings belong to quiet ritual, and as you rise with the sun, you feel the steady rhythm of a life shaped by harmony with nature. Doesn't it soothe you to imagine beginning the day not with haste, but with reverence for the moment? You step out onto the veranda, your bare feet brushing the smooth wooden planks. The garden before you is still, touched by dew. Stones glisten faintly, moss darkened by moisture. A single pine tree leans gracefully, its branches sheltering a patch of earth raked into flowing lines. A bamboo fountain tips and empties with a hollow clink, the sound echoing softly before it fills again. This rhythm is like a heartbeat, steady and grounding. You breathe with it, and the air tastes fresh, as though the mountain itself has exhaled. In this moment, you understand why so much of ancient Japanese life unfolded in harmony with gardens, temples, and natural beauty. Stay with me, because the morning is just beginning, and in a moment, we'll follow the people of this village into their daily routines. For now, listen, roosters crow in the distance. Somewhere, a monk's bell tolls, carrying across the valley. The sounds do not clash, but layer, forming a gentle chorus. Rice paddies stretch beyond the homes, their waters catching the first light of day. Farmers move quietly, checking irrigation channels, their reflections rippling beside them. A woman kneels by a hearth, stoking the embers, coaxing steam from a pot. Children laugh softly, still half drowsy, running toward a garden with toys carved from wood. Each moment is small, but together they weave the fabric of the morning. Now let us step with the samurai as he begins his own day. His house is modest, yet orderly, its floor swept, its garden tended. He kneels before a low altar where incense curls upward, offering a bow to ancestors. He ties his robe with practiced care, his movements fluid, unhurried. His sword rests near him, but it is not lifted yet. First comes stillness. He sits cross-legged, closes his eyes, and breathes. The room is silent, but within that silence his spirit steadies. Isn't it surprising, in the softest way, to picture a warrior beginning his day not with drills or commands, but with breath, prayer, and calm? Stay close, because soon the village will grow busier. In fields, farmers bend to tend seedlings, their straw hats shading their faces. They move slowly but with purpose, their tools light against the earth. Water shimmers in narrow channels, carrying life into each plot. In workshops, craftsmen begin their tasks. A potter shaping clay on a wheel, his hands smoothing the surface with care. A weaver stretching threads across a loom, the gentle clack of wood echoing through the space. Even the act of work carries a kind of rhythm, steady and sure, never hurried, never harsh. Doesn't it feel restful to imagine a whole community moving in unison, each person contributing their quiet skill? And yet, the samurai remains apart in some ways, his life marked by discipline and duty. After his meditation, he steps into the yard. He takes his sword, its scabbard gleaming faintly in the morning light. He practices form slowly, deliberately, each movement precise, like a dance performed to an unseen rhythm. There is no battle here, only practice, but the practice itself is sacred. Each cut, each step, is balanced by stillness. The blade flashes, then returns to rest. This, too, is harmony, strength guided by control. Can you feel how soothing it is to imagine strength expressed without violence, like wind moving leaves without breaking them? Let us walk now into the temple grounds, where monks begin their day. The temple rises from the hillside, its roof sweeping upward, its wooden beams smelling of cedar and incense. A monk sweeps the courtyard. Each stroke is broom deliberate, almost meditative. Another tends a lantern, trimming the wick, coaxing flame. Inside, chant begin, low, resonant, echoing against the beams. A samurai may visit here too, bowing as he enters, leaving his sandals at the gate. In this place, he is not a warrior but a seeker, listening as monks remind him of impermanence, of balance, of the beauty of silence. Isn't it calming to imagine that even those trained in war found refuge in such spaces of peace? Stay with me, because the morning is stretching into midday, and the rhythms of life unfold steadily. Farmers break for a meal of rice and pickled vegetables, eaten in shade near the fields. Children rest on porches, sipping broth from bowls. Merchants arrange their goods along narrow streets. Baskets of fish, boats of cloth, jars of oil. The air fills with scents, soy, miso, grilled fish, smoke from cooking fires. There's a hum of life here, but it is soft, never overwhelming. The village, the temple, the samurai household, all move as if guided by the same invisible hand, a hand that values order, patience, and community. As the sun climbs higher, the samurai returns to his home. He removes his armor, if he wore it all, and sits once again before the altar. He unrolls a scroll, perhaps a poem or a lesson in calligraphy. His brush dips in ink, and with steady strokes he writes characters, each line a reflection of his discipline. Outside, children's laughter rises again, a reminder that life is not only duty, but joy. Isn't it gentle to think that strength and art flowed side by side, as natural as streams feeding the same river? Now pause here with me. Picture yourself sitting on the veranda of his house, a cup of tea warm in your hands. The garden spreads before you, sunlight dappling the stones. The air carries the scent of pine and the faint echo of temple bells. You are neither farmer nor samurai, neither monk nor child. You are simply present, breathing with the land, held by its calm. In this moment, the centuries dissolve, and you feel the steady heartbeat of ancient Japan, not loud, not lost, but alive in its quiet balance. And so, as we bring this first chapter to a close, carry this image with you. The samurai bowing at his altar, the monk sweeping temple stones, the farmer bending his field, the child laughing under cedar trees. Together, they form the rhythm of mornings in ancient Japan. Together, they remind us that life, however disciplined or simple, is always shaped by balance, strength tempered by softness, duty softened by beauty, work brightened by play. In the next chapter, we will wander deeper into these rhythms, exploring how homes themselves were built to nurture harmony, with nature, with family, with spirit. But for now, let the image of the morning linger, soft as incense smoke drifting upward, carrying with it peace, calm, and gentle continuity. When you step across the threshold of a home in ancient Japan, the first thing you notice is not what is there, but what is not. There is space, open and clean, air that seems to flow from one room to another without walls blocking it. You feel it instantly. The design itself whispers calmness. The wooden beams, polished by touch and time, rise overhead, and the tatami mats beneath your feet give a faint, grassy scent, soft under your step, slightly springy. The emptiness is not absence. It is invitation, a quiet openness where every object matters because so little is needed. Imagine how light you would feel, living in such a space, unburdened by clutter, where even the silence feels arranged with care. Sliding doors made of wood and paper divide the rooms. Shoji screens that filter the daylight into a soft glow. They make sunlight feel like water moving through rice paper, a glow that never glares, always gentles. When the breeze stirs, the screens shiver faintly, and you can almost hear the whisper of the trees outside. In the corner, a simple alcove, the tokonoma, holds a scroll with calligraphy or perhaps a painting of a mountain or a pine tree. Beside it rests a single vase with one flower, just one, but chosen so carefully that its presence transforms the room. Stay with me here, because this tiny detail reveals something profound. Beauty was not about excess, but about knowing where to stop, about finding balance and restraint. As you breathe slowly in this room, you notice how the house itself feels like a bridge between inside and outside. Verandas wrap around it, leading into gardens where stones and moss are arranged with the same care as scroll and vase. A door slides open easily, and suddenly you are outside, yet the transition is seamless. In ancient Japan, walls were not barriers. They were veils, meant to soften, not to shut away. Even when winter winds blew, the sound of the outside world came in. Rain against the roof, wind brushing pine needles, the call of crows at dusk. And in summer, the air flowed freely, carrying the fragrance of blossoms into the house. Doesn't it soothe you to imagine a home breathing with the seasons, never sealed away, always alive? Now, let's pause and step closer to the family hearth, the airori, a sunken square in the floor where a small fire glows. Above it hangs a kettle, suspended by an adjustable hook. The fire crackles softly, smoke curling upward, staining the beams faintly with years of meals and warmth. Around the hearth, family members gather, children with wooden toys, elders with stories, women preparing food with steady hands. Rice steams in clay pots. Miso soup simmers, releasing its savory scent. Fish grill on skewers, their skin crisping over embers. The warmth of fire is not just heat, it is togetherness. Every word spoken here mingles with smoke, rising to the beams, lingering like memory. Stay close, because this hearth is more than furniture. It is the heart of the home, the circle where life unfolds day after day. Think of a child in such a household, waking to the tatami mats underfoot, listening to sparrows outside, then running to the veranda to watch the morning unfold. He might play with carved animals or painted tops, his laughter carrying through the house. His sister kneels beside her mother, helping to grind soybeans or carry wood for the fire. The father may be a farmer, returning from the fields to wash his hands in a wooden basin. Or perhaps a samurai, who leaves in armor but returns to rest his sword beside the door. Each role is distinct, but under one roof. They are one family, joined by meals, by rituals, by the steady rhythm of home. Stay with me, because now we'll notice how the roof itself protects them. Made of thatched reeds or wooden shingles, it extends far beyond the walls, offering shelter from rain. When a storm comes, you can hear it. The patter of drops on the roof, steady, soothing like a drumbeat above. The house feels alive in those moments, creaking gently, holding firm against elements, a cradle for those inside. Imagine lying on a tatami floor, quilt pulled over your shoulders, listening to that rhythm of rain, safe, warm, unhurried. Doesn't it make you feel that even storms were softened by the design of these homes? The interior was lit not by harsh light, but by lanterns. Paper lanterns glowed like captured moons, their light warm and muted. At night, a soft flicker would dance on the shoji, shadows of family members moving quietly within. The flicker of the lamp, the murmur of voices, the faint rustle of robes against tatami. All these became lullabies of daily life. Even silence was filled with texture, as though every pause between words was meant to rest the heart. Now, imagine visiting a more refined home, that of a samurai family. The structure is larger, but the same principles apply. Simplicity, openness, harmony. The floors are tatami, the rooms divided by sliding screens, the alcove holding scrolls or seasonal flowers. Yet here, there may also be racks or armor, polished helmets resting beside wooden stands. A sword stand might hold gleaming blades. But even these weapons are arranged with care, treated as objects of spirit as much as steel. In one room, a writing desk waits, with brushes and ink for letters and poems. A samurai might kneel here, writing to his lord or composing a verse for himself. The house holds both strength and softness, woven together. But what is most striking is how much space is left open. A Western house of the same period might fill rooms with chairs, shelves, and heavy furniture. Here, a single cushion, a low table, a vase with one flower suffice. The emptiness is not emptiness at all, but breathing space, a reminder that life should flow like air. And so, as you sit in this home, you feel your own breath slow, your thoughts quiet. The house itself seems to guide you toward calmness, as though it were teaching you to live with less and find more. Stay with me for one more detail: the seasonal shifts. In summer, bamboo blinds are hung to soften the sun, and futons are rolled away to keep the house cool. In winter, quilts are laid thicker, fires burn longer, and rooms feel close, warm, protected. The house changes with the seasons, never fixed, always adapting. This adaptability reflects the spirit of its people, who learn not to resist nature, but to live with it. Doesn't it feel reassuring to think a home that shifts gently as the world outside changes, always welcoming, always fit in the moment? As this chapter closes, imagine yourself sitting in such a home. The air smells faintly of tatami and pine smoke. A lantern glows softly in the corner. Outside, the garden waits, stones and moss arranged in flowing patterns, ready to greet you when the doors slide open. Inside, family gathers, voices low, steady warm. You are safe here. You belong here. And as we move into the next chapter, we'll wander into those gardens themselves, where design and nature become one. But for now, rest in this room. Feel its openness, its warmth, its quiet balance, as steady and soothing as the sound of rain on the roof. Step with me now into the gardens of ancient Japan, where every stone, every leaf, every ripple of water was chosen and placed with intention. Imagine sliding open a wooden door, stepping down from the veranda, and feeling the earth beneath your feet, cool and damp with morning dew. The garden greets you not with wildness, but with harmony, an ordered stillness that feels like poetry written in moss and stone. You pause, and the air seems to change. It grows softer, quieter, as though the garden itself has drawn a curtain between you and the clamor of the world. Doesn't it soothe you to think of a place where even silence has texture, where calm is arranged with care? At first glance, the garden may appear simple. A cluster of rocks rests beside raked gravel, their shadows stretching like brushstrokes. A pond mirrors the sky, its surface broken only by the ripple of a carp. A pine leans slightly, shaped by careful pruning. Yet each detail is deliberate. The gravel, combed into flowing lines, suggests rivers and waves, movement captured in stillness. The rocks are mountains, islands, or perhaps nothing but themselves, placed to evoke balance. To walk here is to walk through a living painting, one that changes with every step you take. Stay close, because in a moment, we'll see how these gardens were not just decoration, but reflections of a whole philosophy of life. Listen for a moment. A bamboo fountain tips and empties with a hollow clink. Its rhythm repeats, steady and sure, reminding you of passing time, of cycles that never end. Birds call from the trees, their songs weaving with the sound of water. The air smells of pine, damp earth, and faint blossoms. You kneel by the pond and watch koi glide beneath the surface, their movements slow, graceful, deliberate. Doesn't it feel restful to watch creatures that never hurry, that move as though the world has given them all the time they need? Now walk with me along the stepping stones. They are not arranged in a straight line, but in a pattern that makes you slow down, guiding your steps gently. Each stone rests on earth shaped by hands that knew how to balance weight and space. Some stones are larger, some smaller, but together they form a path that feels as natural as a stream. The path curves, leading you past lanterns carved from stone, their hollow centers once holding candles that flickered warmly at night. At dusk, these lanterns glowed like stars fallen to earth, their light casting soft shadows across moss and gravel. Imagine the peace of walking here in twilight, each step carrying you deeper into stillness. Stay with me, because the garden holds more secrets. A bridge, painted red or left plain, arches over the pond. Crossing it feels symbolic, a quiet journey from one world to another. Beneath, water flows, catching the light, carrying fallen petals downstream. Beyond the bridge, a small tea house might wait, hidden by trees. Its thatched roof and sliding doors invite you in, offering shade and silence. Within, tea is prepared with ritual, every movement slow and intentional. The garden is not separate from this ritual. It is part of it, the setting that shapes the mood, the silence that deepens a taste of tea. Let's pause for a moment at the tea house. You kneel on tatami, your hands wrapped around a warm cup. The bitter scent of matcha rises, mingling with the fragrance of the garden. Outside, the wind stirs bamboo leaves, their rustle like whispers. A monk or host bows before serving, every gesture measured, flowing. Nothing here is hurried, nothing wasted. Even lifting the cup feels significant, as though you are holding a piece of time itself. Isn't it comforting to imagine such mindfulness in every sip, every glance, every sound? Step outside again and notice how the seasons transform the garden. In spring, cherry blossoms scatter across the ground, pale pink petals drifting like snow. In summer, lotus blooms open on ponds, their wide leaves sheltering koi. In autumn, maple leaves blaze red and gold, their reflections shimmering on rake gravel. In winter, snow covers stones and pines, muffling sound, turning the garden into a white, quiet dream. Each season reveals something different, yet the balance remains. The garden is not fixed. It is alive, breathing with the cycles of the world. Stay close, because now we'll see how philosophy shaped these designs. Gardens were not meant to impress with size or grandeur, but to evoke simplicity, impermanence, and connection. The principle of wabi-sabi, the beauty of imperfection, lingered here. A crooked tree, a weathered stone, moss creeping across lanterns. These were not flaws, but truths, reminders that beauty lives in what fades, in what changes, in what remains incomplete. As you walk through such a garden, you feel it too, the calm that comes when you stop seeking perfection and instead accept what is. At the heart of many temple gardens lay the dry landscape, or karasansui, the rock garden. Imagine raked gravel spread wide, a sea of white or gray, rippling lines carefully drawn by monks each morning. Stones rise from the surface like islands, casting shadows that change with the sun. There is no water, yet rivers flow here. No waves, yet the sea is present. To sit before such a garden is to sit before a canvas of meditation, where your mind drifts as naturally as clouds across the sky. Isn't it gentle to think of monks finding stillness not in words, but in arranging rocks and lines of gravel? A practice as quiet as breath? Now let's picture a samurai walking here. His sword is side, but his steps slow, his eyes softened by the sight of moss and water. For a moment, he is not warrior, but student, learning balance from the stones, patience from the koi, humility from the blossoms that fall before their time. The garden teaches without speaking, and he listens without asking. And you too can feel that teaching right now, as you imagine walking with him. You feel yourself steadied, soothed, unhurried. As this chapter draws to a close, let's rest on a wooden bench by the pond. The water glimmers, the air cool against your skin. A carp surfaces, ripples spreading outward. The bamboo fountain tips again, clinking softly, its rhythm endless. You sip the last of your tea, and the quiet wraps around you like a blanket. The garden has done its work. It has slowed your breath, softened your thoughts, and shown you that peace can be arranged, stone by stone, leaf by leaf. In the next chapter, we will step from gardens into temples themselves, where bells echo and incense curls, where meditation becomes not just an idea, but a way of living. But for now, carry the image of this garden with you. The bridge arching over water, the lantern glowing at dusk, the koi gliding beneath blossoms. Let it linger like the sound of bamboo clinking, a rhythm that stays steady long after you have left. Come with me now as we leave the garden path behind and step toward the temple itself. The gravel crunches softly beneath your feet, each step steady, unhurried. Ahead, the curved roof rises into view, its wooden beams darken with age, its tiles holding the sheen of countless rains. Lanterns flicker faintly near the entrance, their glow gentle against the twilight. You hear the sound before you reach the threshold. The low, resonant tone of bell, struck once, its vibration echoing across the valley, filling the air with a calm that seems to seep into your bones. The temple does not call with urgency. It beckons with stillness. As we pass beneath the wooden gate, carved with care centuries ago, you notice how the world outside begins to fade. The chatter of villagers, the creak of carts, the barking of dogs, all dissolve. Inside, there is only the sigh of wind through pine, the rustle of robes, the faint tap of sandals on stone. The temple seems alive, yet it moves with the rhythm of the earth itself. Slow, deliberate, eternal. And here is a gentle twist. While temples were sanctuaries of prayer, they were also schools, meeting places, and keepers of culture. Monks did not only chant. They copied texts, painted screens, and tended gardens. Temples were not apart from life, but interwoven with it, holding within their walls both silence and creation. Stay with me, because in a moment we'll step inside, where incense drifts like breath. But first, pause in the courtyard. A great bronze bell hangs suspended, its surface etched with patterns and characters, worn by centuries of touch. A monk approaches, his robes whispering as he walks. He takes the wooden beam, draws it back, and lets it swing. The bell sings again, deeper this time, its tone vibrating to the soles of your feet. You can feel it in your chest, in your breath, as though the sound has become part of you. Isn't it soothing to think that a single sound, carried on air, could calm not only the listener but the entire landscape? Now, slowly, we slide open the wooden doors. Inside, the air is cooler, darker, scented with sandalwood incense. Candles flicker, their flames small but steady, painting golden halos across polished floors. Tatama mats spread beneath your feet, their woven texture grounding you. At the far end of the hall stands a statue, serene and still, its expression soft, its hands folded in quiet teaching. The light plays across its surface, bringing it to life in shadows and glow. You kneel here and the silence deepens. Around you, monks chant in unison, their voices low, measured, like waves rolling one after another. The sound does not rise or fall sharply. It flows continuous, wrapping you like a blanket. Stay close. Listen carefully. The chanting is not hurried. Each syllable lingers, vibrating in the air long after the monks' mouths have closed. You can almost feel the words moving through you, even without knowing their meaning. Between the chants, the silence is just as full, just as resonant. And in this balance, sound and silence, voice and breath, you begin to understand why temples were more than buildings. They were mirrors of the universe, places where opposites joined, where impermanence was honored, and where even warriors found rest for their restless hearts. Now, let's imagine daily life within these walls. At dawn, monks rise with the first light, their robes rustling as they gather. They strike the bell, sweep the courtyard, and light incense. They move not with haste but with rhythm. Each task is sacred as prayer. Copying text with brushes, their hands steady, their ink flowing like rivers across parchment. Preparing simple meals of rice, miso, or pickled vegetables, the steam rising gently. Tending gardens, arranging stones, trimming pines. Even the smallest tasks carried meaning, each one a thread in the fabric of devotion. Doesn't it bring comfort to think that even sweeping leaves could be an act of meditation? Outside, the temple grounds spread like a small village of their own. Stone lanterns mark the paths, moss clings to steps, and wooden bridges cross streams. Villagers come here for guidance, for blessings, for quiet moments of reflection. Samurai, too, visit, not in the clamor of armor, but in plain robes, their heads bowed. They leave offerings, ask questions, or sit silently, letting the temple's stillness seep into them. And so the temple becomes not just a place of worship, but a hearth of community, a center where spirit and daily life meet. Stay with me, because the temple also holds stories. Imagine a young monk, sweeping leaves in the courtyard. His movements are simple, yet in his mind he is learning patience, discipline, balance. Or a samurai, weary from travel, sitting before the altar, listening to chants, his sword resting beside him. He realizes, perhaps for the first time, that strength is not in striking, but in yielding, not in noise, but in silence. These stories repeat in countless forms across centuries, and each one teaches the same lesson. That peace is not found outside, but within, nurtured in stillness. As the day deepens, the temple glows differently. In late afternoon, light filters through paper screens, golden and soft. Shadows stretch across the floors, long and elegant. The air grows cooler, filled with the scent of incense that has burned all day. Evening brings another toll of the bell, its voice carrying far into the hills. Villagers hear it in their fields. Children hear it as they return home, and travelers hear on the road. Each one pauses, if only for a moment, reminded that they are part of something larger. Isn't it gentle to think of a sound connecting so many lives, weaving them together across space? At night, the temple quiets even further. Candles are extinguished, one by one, leaving only moonlight to filter across the floors. Monks retreat to their quarters, their robes folded neatly beside them. The garden outside becomes a dream, stones casting long shadows, water shimmering faintly. The bell no longer rings, yet its echo lingers in memory. And you, sitting on the veranda, feel the calm spread through you, steady and unbroken, like ripples widening on a pond. Before we step onward, let's sit a little longer here. Close your eyes and imagine the temple around you. The scent of incense, the low chant still resonating in your chest, the cool air brushing your skin. You are safe here, in the company of silence, in the presence of centuries of devotion. This is not only history, it is a sanctuary, one you can carry with you, stone by stone, breath by breath. And now, gently, we will prepare to move into the next chapter, where we follow the samurai from these sacred halls back into their daily lives, to see how the lessons of temples flowed into the discipline of warriors. But for now, rest here in the temple's embrace, lanterns glowing faintly, bells silent, the night air cool and kind. Step quietly now from the temple's cool stillness into the broader rhythm of daily life. The samurai, whom we often imagine only in armor, were also men of households, of routines, of balance between duty and simplicity. Let me take you with me into the wooden corridors of samurai home, where tatami mats soften each step and paper doors slide open to reveal gardens small but serene. The world outside may be filled with discipline and duty, but inside there's a rhythm of domestic life, gentle, ordered, sometimes tender. It is in these rhythms that we find another side of the samurai, one less often told but just as real. Imagine a morning in such a home. The first light of dawn filters through shoji screens, turning the rooms pale gold. A samurai rises not with hurry but with quiet purpose, folding his bedding neatly and washing his face in a wooden basin filled with cool water. The splash is soft, the towel a rough weave against the skin. His robe, simple and tied with care, whispers as it brushes across the floor. In one corner, a scroll painting hangs, perhaps a mountain or a single pine tree. It is not decoration alone. It is a reminder of impermanence, of nature's steady guidance. Stay with me, because in a moment you'll see how every detail of a samurai's home reflected more than practicality. The house was not large or ostentatious, but crafted for harmony. Sliding doors open to let in breezes, and the garden outside was always part of the home, never separate. Stones, moss, bamboo, and perhaps a koi pond brought the presence of nature into daily life. Children played among the stepping stones, their laughter light against the quiet walls, while women of the household prepared rice and miso over low fires. Can you picture the smoke rising slowly, curling to the rafters, mingling with the scent of tea? Meals were simple yet grounding. Steamed rice, perhaps grilled fish, pickled vegetables, and soup. These foods, taken together, nourished not just the body, but the discipline required for training. Even in meals there was mindfulness, bowing before eating, gratitude after finishing. Each gesture quiet but meaningful. Picture the samurai sitting with his family, his chopsticks moving with care, his children mimicking his movements. For a man trained in the art war, these small rituals were anchors of peace. Isn't it soothing to realize that even the most disciplined warrior still paused to share warm rice, to smile gently at the chatter of a child? When the meal ended, the day unfolded with purpose. Sword practice, horseback training, or the study of calligraphy might follow. Yet training was not only about combat. It was about cultivating patience, respect, and restraint. In the courtyard, you might hear the swish of a bamboo sword cutting air, followed by the steady breath of a warrior aligning body and mind. Or you might hear the scratch of a brush on parchment as he copied poems, ink strokes deliberate, reminding him that precision exists beyond the battlefield. Every task, whether martial or artistic, was a practice in balance. Stay with me here, because the samurai household was also a place of education. Children were taught not only martial arts, but reading, poetry, and the teachings of loyalty and honor. A young boy might kneel with his father, learning how to hold a brush correctly, tracing characters with slow, steady lines. A daughter might listen to her mother recite verses, her voice soft as the wind outside. The home was not only a shelter, it was a school, a place where discipline was passed quietly, gesture to gesture, word to word. Doesn't it bring comfort to think of strength beginning not in battlefields, but in living rooms, in gardens, in the daily rituals of family? In the afternoons, when training and study paused, the home often returned to a hush. You might hear only the cicadas buzzing outside, the clatter of a pot being set down, or the brush of wind moving through bamboo. Sometimes, a samurai might sit on his veranda, gazing at the garden, his sword resting nearby but untouched. The garden became a teacher, too, its stillness reminding him to slow his thoughts, its moss reminding him of patience, its blossoms reminding him of impermanence. And here is a quiet twist. While samurai are remembered for their loyalty to lords and duty to war, they were equally bound to the responsibilities of home. They managed estates, oversaw fields, and ensured that their households ran smoothly. The balance between duty outside and harmony within was delicate. Yet it was this very balance that gave them strength. A man who could steady his household, who could listen to the laughter of his children, was also a man who could steady his mind in times of conflict. As dusk settled, lamps were lit. The light was warm, flickering against wooden beams, throwing shadows that danced across the walls. Families gathered again for the evening meal. Conversation quiet, the day's labor shared. Perhaps a samurai read aloud a poem, or played a stringed instrument, the notes rising softly in the night. Beyond the house, the world continued. Temple bells rang in the distance. Villagers walked home from fields, but within, there was a sense of enclosure, of safety. Doesn't it soothe you to picture such a scene, where even the fiercest warrior set aside his sword for the gentle music of domestic life? Stay close as night deepens. The household prepares for sleep. Futons are unrolled. Children's laughter grows drowsy, and the fires in the hearth dim to embers. Outside, the moon shines across tiled roofs, bathing the garden in silver light. Crickets sing steadily, their rhythm lulling the home into rest. The samurai, lying on his mat, closes his eyes not with tension but with ease, his breath steady, his heart calmed by the knowledge that strength and peace have both found their place within his day. And so, as this chapter closes, let's linger for a moment in that quiet. Imagine yourself in that samurai home, the scent of tatami, the sound of cicadas, the glow of lamplight fading. You are safe, wrapped in the balance of strength and serenity, just as they were centuries ago. In the next chapter, we'll follow these rhythms outward again, into the villages and towns that form the wider community, to see how the lives of farmers, artisans, and monks intertwine with the warrior's world. But for now, stay here a little longer, in the warm glow of a family's evening, where silence and closeness weave the fabric of peace. Let us now step gently beyond the wooden gates of the samurai home and walk together into the heart of a village. Imagine a narrow path, packed firm by countless feet, winding between thatched roof houses. The air carries the fragrance of smoke from hearth fires, mixed with the sweet scent of rice straw drying in the fields. Chickens cluck softly in the distance, while a dog dozes in the shade, twitching its ears at the sound of cicadas. The village feels alive, not with noise or clamor, but with a steady hum of simple routines, each woven into the rhythm of day and season. Here's the quiet twist. Though we often think of samurai as towering figures in Japanese history, their world rested on the shoulders of villagers, farmers, artisans, and merchants whose daily labors provided the foundation of life. It was in these villages that rice was planted, silk was woven, pottery was shaped, and sake was brewed. Without this quiet network of lives, the grand castles and temples would have been impossible. Stay with me, because in a moment we will step closer and see how the ordinary was in fact extraordinary, how simple gestures carried the weight of centuries. Walk with me past the rice fields. At dawn, farmers step barefoot into the water, the mud cool against their legs as they plant each seedling by hand. Their straw hats shield them from the rising sun, their laughter carrying across the flooded fields. Children run along the banks, splashing in puddles, while elders rest beneath trees, their eyes watching with quiet pride. The fields shimmer like mirrors, reflecting clouds and sky, transforming the earth into something both practical and beautiful. Isn't it soothing to picture such patience, each plant placed one by one, a rhythm repeated season after season, a trust in the cycles of rain and sun? As the day warms, the village stirs with other sounds. A potter sits at his wheel, shaping clay with steady hands, the spinning hum a lullaby of creation. His workshop smells of earth and fire, the shelves lined with bowls and jars, each one slightly different, yet each bearing the mark of his touch. A weaver works nearby, pulling thread across the loom, the clack of wood echoing softly like a heartbeat. Strips of dyed cloth hang in the breeze, their colors muted but warm, indigo, soft brown, faded red, fluttering like banners of daily life. Together, these artisans fill the village with textures and tones, quiet but enduring. Stay close, because the village was more than labor, it was also community. Picture a festival day, lanterns hung from tall poles, children with bells tied to their wrists, drummers gathering at the shrine. The smell of roasted chestnuts drifts through the air, laughter mingles with the beat of taiko drums, and dancers in bright robes sway with graceful steps. Yet even in celebration, there is no rush. Everything unfolds with measured joy, like ripples spreading across water. These festivals tied people not only to each other, but to the land, to the spirits believed to watch over harvests and seasons. Doesn't it bring a kind of peace to imagine a whole village moving in harmony, each voice part of a greater song? In the afternoons, the pace slows again. Children chase dragonflies, women draw water from the well, and men repair roofs or sharpen tools. In the distance, the temple bell tolls, reminding everyone of the time, its deep note connecting the village to the sacred. Some pause to bow in its direction. Others simply let the sound wash over them, a familiar comfort. The boundary between daily life and spiritual life was never strict. Each flowed into the other, as naturally as streams joining a river. Now let us turn to the village inn, where travelers rest. A weary merchant sets down his pack, filled with lacquerware or silks. The innkeeper brings steaming bowls of miso soup and rice, placing them with a bow. Lanterns glow, casting soft light on wooden walls, while outside the night gathers, cool and calm. Stories are exchanged here, tales of distant markets, of temples across the mountains, of storms and safe returns. Imagine sitting in such a room, listening to voices low and steady, the smell of tea filling the air. Doesn't it feel like the kind of place where one could rest easily, even far from home? Stay with me, because there is more to this picture. At the center of many villages stood the shrine, small but sacred, with ropes of straw and paper streamers swaying in the breeze. Villagers visited often, not only during festivals but in daily quiet moments, offering rice, coins, or prayers. Children learned to bow before they learned to write, their small hands pressing together with sincerity. The shrine reminded everyone that life was not only about survival, but about gratitude, about remembering that the world's gifts were shared. Even in times of hardship, the presence of the shrine gave comfort, a place where fears could be whispered and hopes entrusted. And yet, alongside this peace, there was discipline. Villagers were not free to wander entirely as they pleased. They were bound by duties to lords, by taxes, by obligations that shaped their lives. Rice was measured carefully, portions given to samurai and to the castle. Rules guided what could be worn, what could be owned, even what could be celebrated. But within these boundaries, villagers created spaces of joy, resilience, and connection. Isn't it remarkable to think that even underweight, people found ways to live fully, to sing, to share, to rest? As dusk falls, the village transforms. Smoke curls from chimneys, glowing faintly in the fading light. Lanterns flicker at doorways, casting long shadows on the ground. Families gather around low tables, steam rising from bowls, laughter soft in the dim rooms. Outside, the fields grow quiet. Frogs begin their chorus, and the moon climbs, silver and steady. You walk through the streets, hearing only the steady murmur of life, the pulse of a community at rest. Stay here for a moment longer. Close your eyes and picture yourself sitting beside a well, listening to water drip into a wooden bucket. The air is cool, the stars bright above, the earth smelling faintly of straw and firewood. You are part of this rhythm now, part of the harmony of villagers whose lives flow like rivers, quiet, steady, enduring. The samurai may have held power, but the village held life. And it is here, in these simple sounds and sights, that history becomes truly human. And so, as this chapter ends, we prepare to step further. Next, we will leave the village paths and enter the towns that bustle with merchants, markets, and travelers. If the village was steady and slow, the town will bring another rhythm, one of exchange, of trade, of voices mingling from near and far. But for now, linger here in the village's twilight, safe in the circle of lantern light, the sound of frogs and bells weaving through the night air. Let us now walk together from the soft, steady rhythm of the village into the livelier hum of the town. The path widens here, the air thick with the scent of grilled fish, fresh rice cakes, and incense drifting from street-side shrines. Wooden shop fronts lean gently toward the road, their eaves sheltering goods displayed in neat rows. Bundles of cloth, jars of miso, lacquered bowls, bamboo baskets, and scrolls filled with calligraphy. The town feels alive in a different way from the village. Not hurried, not harsh, but buzzing with voices, footsteps, and the rustle of trade. Here, merchants, artisans, monks, and travelers cross paths, weaving a tapestry of sound and sight that gave life to Japan's beating heart. And here's the quiet twist. While samurai carried the image of power, townspeople carried the weight of economy, and their voices shaped culture as much as swords did. A swordsmith might labor for hours in a dim forge, hammer striking metal in rhythmic blows, but his work reached the world through markets. A potter's jars, a weaver's fabrics, a merchant's spices, all of these objects travel hand to hand, carrying stories with them. Stay with me, because in a moment you will see how the town was more than a place of commerce. It was a meeting ground of worlds, a stage where everyday lives created something enduring. Step with me into the morning bustle. Vendors call softly to customers, their tones polite, never jarring. A woman sells bundles of herbs wrapped neatly in paper, their fragrance sharp and green. A man unrolls bolts of indigo cloth, the blue so deep it seems to hold twilight inside it. Children trail behind their parents, pointing at sweets displayed in baskets. Monks walk barefoot along the road, heads bowed, bowls in hand, receiving alms of rice or coins from passers-by. The clink of coins, the shuffle of sandals, the creak of cart wheels, all merge into a music of daily life. Isn't it soothing to picture a street alive yet never overwhelming, full yet never frantic? Now let's pause at a tea house. The door slides open, and the scent of roasted tea fills the air. Inside, travelers sit on low benches, their sandals left neatly by the door. A merchant from a distant province tells a story of mountains wrapped in snow. A farmer listens, eyes wide, his own world widened by tales he may never see. Bowls of steaming tea are served, the liquid green and fragrant, warming cold hands. In the corner, a samurai sits silently, his sword resting beside him, his attention fixed not on war, but on the drifting steam. This tea house, though modest, becomes a place of pause, a hearth for strangers. Stay with me, because as the day unfolds, the town shows us more layers. Craftsmen line the streets, their tools clicking softly. A woodcarver shapes figures of foxes and cranes, his blade moving with delicate precision. A calligrapher sits by an open window, brush gliding over paper, each stroke a gesture of balance and breath. Apprentices scurry with buckets of water, with bundles of straw, with packages wrapped in cloth. Each trade hums along, and together they form the pulse of the town. Can you feel the calm rhythm beneath it all, like a steady drumbeat of creation? The town also carried its shrines and temples, small sanctuaries where the noise thinned. Imagine stepping from the marketplace into a shaded courtyard, where a wooden gate opens to reveal a stone path. Lanterns flicker in the dim. Incense curls upward, and villagers bow before a shrine. A child rings the bell, its sound bright and clear, cutting gently through the hum of trade. Here, in the heart of commerce, spirit was never forgotten. Business and prayer coexisted, as naturally as wind and water. Now walk with me through the evening streets. Lanterns glow in rows, their paper sides painted with flowers and waves. The air cools, voices soften, and the day begins to fold into night. Shops close their doors, their shutters sliding down with gentle clacks. Children chase one another to the fading light, their laughter mingling with the soft rhythm of shamisen played by a musician sitting at a corner. A samurai walks past, his steps measured, his gaze calm. He passes a merchant counting coins, a mother carrying a basket, a monk lighting incense. Each belongs here, each thread necessary in the fabric of the town. Stay close, because festivals transform these towns into something almost dreamlike. Imagine banners fluttering above the streets, stalls filled with sweets and grill foods, and dancers moving through the crowd. Drums beat in steady rhythm, lanterns sway in the evening wind, and laughter ripples like water. Yet even in festival, the movements remain graceful, the voices never harsh. The Japanese towns of long ago carried a harmony that balanced energy with restraint, joy with reverence. Doesn't it soothe you to think of walking through such a celebration? The air warm with lantern light, the rhythm of drums steady like a heartbeat? As night deepens, the town rests. The last shop closes, the final travelers retreat to inns, and the streets grow quiet under the watch of the moon. The sound of frogs rises from nearby streams, and somewhere, far off, a temple bell tolls once, its resonance spreading across rooftops. You walk slowly along the empty path, lantern light flickering against wooden walls, the air cool against your skin. Each step feels slower now, softer, as though the town itself exhales, ready for rest. And so, as this chapter draws to its close, let's sit together on a wooden bench by the road, watching the lanterns sway, listening to the fading voices of the market. The town has shown us its life, its trades, its shrines, its tea houses, its festivals, and each detail adds another layer to the world of ancient Japan. Tomorrow, we will step into yet another layer, the castle, where samurai served, where lords ruled, and where the balance of authority and discipline shaped the land. But for now, let this town's gentle hum linger in your memory, as soothing as the sound of shamisen string fading into night. The castle rises before you, not as a single towering monument of stone, but as a series of walls, gates, and layered rooftops, each tier folding upward like the petals of a lotus. Its white plaster walls gleam pale under the moonlight, the dark wooden beams crossing them like brushstrokes. Curved tiles line the eaves, their edges shaped into patterns of waves and clouds, a detail made to ward off misfortune. The structure is grand, yes, but it does not overwhelm. It invites a slower gaze, a steady appreciation, and a recognition that behind each gate lies a world carefully ordered, carefully guarded. Stay with me, because here in the castle, we'll find more than warriors with swords. We'll find kitchens that simmer with miso broth, gardens where koi glide under maple leaves, and rooms where poetry is written on thin sheets of rice paper. The castle was not only a fortress, it was a living body, each part working together to sustain the rhythm of daily life. In a moment, you'll see how the quiet discipline of the samurai flowed not just into combat, but into art, ritual, and service. As you step through the first gate, the wooden beams above cast long shadows across the ground. Guards stand silently, their armor lacquered, their posture straight but never rigid. They bow slightly as you pass, their hands resting gently on their sword hilts. Beyond the walls, the air shifts. A courtyard opens, where pine trees sway softly in the breeze. The scent of resin mingles with the coolness of damp stone. You hear the faint rustle of bamboo in the distance, a sound like whispers traveling through air. Does it feel like stepping into a sanctuary, one where order itself is a form of peace? Within the castle grounds, there are layers upon layers of space. Each gate, each courtyard, serves as both protection and transition. Moving inward feels like breathing deeper, leaving behind the noise of towns and villages, entering the stillness where the samurai lived and trained. The barracks lie along one side, wooden buildings with sliding doors and tatami mats inside. Here, men sat in meditation at dawn, their breaths rising in unison. Later, they would rise, bow to morning sun, and take up their training, the cut of the sword, the draw of the bow, the balance of stance. Yet even in these exercises, silence reigned more than shouts. The discipline was inward as much as outward. Stay close, because discipline here meant more than readiness for war. It meant bowing before meals, thanking the earth for rice and vegetables. It meant polishing armor, not only for battle, but as a daily act of mindfulness. It meant writing poems by lantern light, each brushstroke teaching patience, each word a measure of one's spirit. The samurai inside these walls were warriors, yes, but also men who were expected to live as examples, of restraint, of loyalty, of balance. Isn't it comforting to think of strength expressed through quiet rituals rather than noise? Step into the kitchens with me. You might expect clanging pots, but here the sound is steady and soft. Knives slicing through daikon, rice steaming in great iron pots, ladles stirring miso soup. Apprentices move quickly yet carefully, handing trays of food to attendants who will carry them to the samurai and their lords. The meals are humble, built around rice, fish, and pickled vegetables, with flavors meant to nourish without excess. In this quiet room, with steam rising and fire glowing low, the pulse of the castle's daily life feels as strong as any drum. Beyond the kitchens lies the garden. At first it seems small, a patch of earth within walls, but look closer. It is designed like a painting. Stones form patterns that resemble rivers. Gravel is raked into lines that mimic flowing water. Lanterns of stone rest near maples and cherry trees. A pond holds koi that moves slowly beneath the surface, their scales glimmering like painted silk. Sitting here, you can hear the faint trickle of water from a bamboo spout, each drop echoing in the stillness. Gardens and castles were not just decorations. They were spaces for reflection, for breathing, for remembering the larger rhythm of nature even inside fortified walls. Let's walk now to the main hall. Tatami mats line the floor, their woven scent faint but grounding. Wooden beams stretch high above, and sliding doors painted with cranes and pines open to reveal chambers where lords held council. Here, silence was powerful. A samurai would kneel, bow low, and wait for words from his daimyo. Every gesture mattered. The angle of the bow, the stillness of the hands, the rhythm of breath. The hall is hushed, but in that hush lies weight, the weight of loyalty and responsibility carried across generations. Stay with me here, because you might expect castles to feel cold, but they did not. Paper screens lent diffused light, warming the rooms with a soft glow. Lanterns glimmered at night, their flame muted by oil paper. Even the walls seemed to hum with the presence of those who had lived and moved here, a memory of discipline layered upon discipline. To live in such a place was to be constantly reminded that your actions, however small, carried meaning. And yet, the castle also held joy. Festivals lit its courtyards with lanterns strung high, music echoing against walls, dancers stepping gracefully to the sound of drums. Children and retainers played games in hidden corners, their laughter weaving through stone passages. Women of the household painted delicate patterns on fans, embroidered robes, and recited poetry in private chambers. The fortress could be stern, but also held tenderness, as any home must. As night descends, the castle changes. Torches flicker along the walls, their light glowing against white plaster. The air grows cooler, and the sound of crickets rises. In a barak room, a group of samurai sit quietly, writing letters by lamplight. In the main hall, a daimyo listens as a musician plucks a shamisen, each note like a ripple across still water. The castle does not sleep all at once. It exhales gradually, like a great body sinking into rest. Imagine sitting now at the edge of a wooden balcony, the garden below dark but not empty, the pond reflecting the moon. A breeze moves across your face, carrying the scent of pine. Somewhere, faintly, a temple bell rings in the distance, its echo crossing mountains and towns to reach even these fortified walls. The castle, though built for war, has become a cradle of calm for the night, and as we close this chapter, we carry with us the memory of its balance. A place of power, yes, but also of gardens, poems, meals, and stillness. Tomorrow, we will step beyond the walls again, into the temples where monks carve their own discipline, a rhythm parallel to that of the samurai. But tonight, let the castle's soft silence stay with you, like the slow drift of a lantern's flame in the dark. The temple rises not with force, but with presence, a stillness that seems to gather around its wooden beams and tiled roof. As you approach, the path is lined with moss-covered stones, each step softened by fallen pine needles. Lanterns of stone stand like guardians, their hollows once filled with candles whose light flickered across centuries. The air here carries a faint sweetness, the scent of incense that clings to wood and stone alike. Unlike the castle, which impressed with its order and defense, the temple invites a slower gaze. Its strength lies not in walls but in silence. Stay with me here, because this silence is not emptiness. It is alive, filled with the murmur of streams, the occasional creak of wood in the breeze, the far-off strike of a temple bell. You can almost feel the vibration of that sound, low and resonant, slipping gently into your chest. In the quiet, monks move softly across verandas, their robes brushing the floor, their steps measured and light. They do not rush, for here, time bends differently. In a moment, you'll see how life within the temple created a rhythm that both reflected and guided the world beyond its gates. At dawn, the monks rise with the first hint of light. The day begins not with words, but with sound, the hollow echo of a wooden clapper, calling the community together. Their robes, simple and unadorned, rustle as they gather in the main hall. Candles flicker, casting long shadows across the altar, where statues of the Buddha or Bodhisattvas sit calm and unblinking. A drum is struck, slow and steady like a heartbeat. Voices rise and chant, a low unison that rolls through the hall, layering upon itself like waves on a shore. Breathing in and out, the monks fall into the rhythm, their lives arranged around breath, chant, and silence. You might expect that such discipline would feel rigid, but it is not. The monks' days are structured, yes, but within that structure lies freedom. Freedom from the noise of desire, freedom from the rush of ambition. Their hours are divided among prayer, work, study, and rest, each carried out with mindfulness. In the gardens, some rake gravel into flowing patterns, each line drawn as carefully as a painter's brushstroke. In the kitchens, others stir pots of rice gruel, the steam rising like mist over mountains. Even the act of sweeping the veranda becomes an offering, the broom's bristles whispering against the wood. Stay close, because within this life of simplicity lies a quiet power. The monks did not chase wealth or armies, yet their temples influenced lords and peasants alike. Samurais sought their counsel, merchants offered gifts, villagers came to pray for rain or health. The temple was not apart from the world. It was a mirror, showing what it meant to live with intention. Doesn't it feel reassuring to imagine such spaces existing as steady hearts within the turning world? Let's step now into the library of the temple. Rows of wooden shelves hold scrolls and bound volumes, their paper yellow but well kept. Here, knowledge was preserved, sutras copied by hand, poems written in delicate script, records of the seasons and stars. Monks bent over low desks, brushes in hand, dipped into ink with steady patience. Each character they formed was not only a word, but an act of meditation. The scratch of brush on paper, the faint scent of ink, these were the sounds and smells of wisdom being carried forward. In the afternoon, the temple grounds glow with light, filtering through cedar trees. Pilgrims arrive, some walking for days to reach this place. They bow at the gates, wash their hands at stone basins, and light sticks of incense. The smoke curls upward, thin and fragile, yet persistent. A woman ties a slip of paper to a tree branch, her wish joining hundreds of others that flutter softly in the wind. A farmer kneels, pressing his forehead to ground, asking for good harvest. Each prayer joins a larger hum of the temple, a collective voice whispering to sky. Evening brings another rhythm. The great bell is struck, its tone deep and resonant, carrying across valleys and rivers. In some traditions, it is struck 108 times, each toll said to release one of the worldly desires that cloud the mind. Imagine standing there, the cool air on your skin, the sound washing over you again and again, each strike like a gentle clearing of space. By the final toll, silence feels fuller, almost tangible. Stay with me, because night in the temple is its own kind of beauty. Lanterns glow along wooden corridors, their lights soft and golden. Shadows stretch long across the gardens, where gravel still holds a memory of the rake. Monks retire to their quarters, lying on simple mats, their breaths slowing into unison. The temple itself seems to exhale, its wood creaking softly, as though the building, too, is settling into rest. The world outside might stir with politics, with battles, with trade, but inside these walls, a deep calm spreads, holding steady like a flame shielded from the wind. Think now of how temples and castles existed side by side. The samurai sought discipline through the sword, while monks sought it through silence. Yet both paths shared roots, balance, loyalty, awareness of life's impermanence. A samurai might leave his castle to meditate in a temple. A monk might counsel a lord on patience and compassion. The lines blurred, and in that blur lay the strength of a culture that honored both action and stillness. And so, as you imagine the temple glowing under moonlight, the cedar trees whispering above, know that you are not only seeing a place, but feeling a rhythm of bells, chants, footsteps, and silence, a rhythm that asks for nothing but your presence, here and now. As you breathe slowly, picture yourself walking along the veranda, the night air cool, the lantern light steady, the world at peace. Tomorrow, we will move deeper into the interplay between temples and daily village life, where farmers, artisans, and travelers all found comfort in these sacred spaces. But tonight, let the temple stillness guide you into your own. The village rests at the foot of rolling hills, its rooftops of thatched straw glowing faintly under the silver wash of moonlight. Smoke rises in thin trails from hearths, carrying the scent of pine wood into the cool night. Between houses, narrow paths of packed earth wind like streams, and lanterns flicker gently outside doorways. It is quiet, though not silent. You can hear the faint bark of a dog, the shuffle of sandals, the rustle of wind in bamboo groves. It feels safe here, nestled between rice field and streams, a small world where daily life moves in steady cycles, guided by the land, the seasons, and the unseen threads that connect temple and castle alike. Stay with me, because though these houses seem humble, each one is a universe of stories. Step closer to a home, where a farmer sits by a low fire. His hands are rough, his robe simple, yet his heart is steady. He eats rice with pickled radish, grateful for each bite. His children lie under blankets, whispering about tomorrow's chores, their voices soft as the crackle of the fire. His wife mends a robe, the needle glinting in the firelight. Outside, bundles of harvested millet rest near the doorway, the promise of survival through winter. This is life paired to its essentials: food, shelter, family, and within its simplicity lies strength. As morning comes, the village stirs with life. Roosters crow, their calls carrying across the fields. Women step outside, carrying buckets to the well. The water splashes as they draw it up, the sound clear and bright in the dawn air. Men set out for the paddies, hoes balanced on their shoulders. The earth is soft from rain, and the air smells of wet soil. Children chase each other down paths, their laughter rising like birdsong. Daily life here is woven into the rhythm of the land. Each task a part of survival, yet also a belonging. Stay close, because within these routines lies a quiet connection to the greater order Japan. Villages like this one were not cut off from castles or temples. They supplied rice to the lords, offered prayers at temple shrines, and sent their sons to train as retainers or monks. When the temple bell tolled in the evening, the sound drifted across the fields, reminding everyone that their lives, however small, were part of something vast and enduring. Doesn't it soothe you to imagine a world where the sound of a bell tied together farmer and samurai, monk and child, each heart moving in unison with its echo? Walk with me now through the rice paddies. The fields stretch in neat rows, their water surfaces glimmering like mirrors under the sky. In spring, seedlings are planted carefully by hand, each one pressed into the soft mud. Farmers bend low, their feet sinking into the earth, their straw hats shading their faces. By summer, the green shoots rise tall, waving in the breeze like an ocean. In autumn, the stalks turn golden, heavy with grain. Harvest is a time of both toil and celebration. Families work together to cut the stalks, stacking them neatly, their laughter rising with the rhythm of sides. By winter, the fields rest, a patchwork of stubble and frost, waiting for the cycle to begin again. Inside the village, artisans shape wood, clay, and cloth. A potter spins his wheel, hands wet with clay, forming bowls that will hold miso soup and rice. A carpenter planes beams of cedar, their scent sharp and clean, crafting doors and beams for houses. Women weave cloth, their looms clacking softly, producing robes dyed in indigo. Even children play at crafts, carving small toys from scraps of wood. Each sound adds to the chorus of the village, the crackle of fire, the splash of water, the hum of labor. Stay with me, because beyond labor lies ritual. In the evenings, villagers gather at the small shrine near the edge of the rice fields. The shrine is simple, a wooden structure with a roof of bark, a rope of straw tied across its entrance, paper streamers fluttering in the breeze. Offerings of rice, sake, and fruit rest upon an altar. The villagers bow, clap their hands softly, and whisper prayers. These rituals are not grand, but they are steady, binding the people to the cycles of nature, to the spirits believed to dwell in the earth, water, and sky. Festivals bring bursts of joy into the village. Imagine lanterns strung between houses, their glow soft and golden. Drums beat in slow rhythm, echoing across the fields. Children dance in circles, their robes swaying. Women carry trays of food, grilled fish, rice cakes, sweet dumplings. Men laugh as they carry portable shrines on their shoulders, chanting as they sway through the streets. For a moment, the village pulses with color, music, and laughter, the quiet routines of daily life transformed into celebration. Yet even this joy is gentle, never overwhelming, always grounded in community. At night, the village exhales again. Fires die down, children drift into sleep, and the stars spread wide overhead. The Milky Way stretches across the sky, a river of light said to connect lovers or carry souls. In houses, the faint sound of weaving or the scratch of a brush continues late into the night, as some work by lamplight. The temple bell rings once more, its sound carrying even here, reminding the villagers that the cycle of life continues. Stay with me, because in the stillness of the village night, we see the essence of ancient Japan. Castles were symbols of order, temples of silence, but the village was the heart. Here, life pulsed with the seasons, humble yet unbroken. Farmers, artisans, children, all played their part, and in doing so created a world where survival and beauty coexisted. It is easy to overlook such quiet lives, but without them, there could be no castles, no temples, no samurai. Imagine now lying on a straw mat inside one of these homes. The fire has burned low. The air smells of smoke and pine. Crickets sing outside, their song steady and calming. You hear the faint breath of sleeping children, the rustle of a blanket, the sigh of the wind through bamboo. In this stillness, you feel the weight of centuries, the comfort of knowing that life here flowed in rhythm with the earth. Tomorrow, we will follow the path from village to market town, where trade and travel brought new sounds, colors, and connections. But for tonight, let the peace of the village rest within you, steady as the breath of those who sleep around the hearth. The road to the market town curves gently along the base of the hills, its surface a mix of packed earth and scattered stones worn smooth by the feet of travelers. Merchants, farmers, monks, and even samurai retainers pass along it, their sandals scuffing quietly, their voices a low murmur against the background of cicadas. On either side, fields and small shrines give way to clusters of inns and tea houses. Signs of life gathering where the flow of people grows thickest. You can almost feel the hum of energy before the town even comes into view, like the faint vibration of a drum just before it is struck. And then, as you crest a small rise, the market town spread before you. A ribbon of rooftops and lanterns nestled between river and road. Wooden buildings line the streets, Their sliding doors open to reveal stalls overflowing with goods. Paper lanterns swing gently in the breeze, painted with characters announcing tea, sake, or rice. The air here carries a different scent from the villages or temples. Roasted chestnuts, grilled fish, sweet bean cakes, and incense all mingling in a cloud that stirs your appetite and curiosity at once. Stay with me, because this is no ordinary gathering of houses. Market towns were crossroads, places where the threads of Japan's life tied together. A farmer might bring baskets of vegetables, an artisan his pottery, a merchant fabrics dyed in deep indigo. Samurai rode through on errands for their lords, their present a reminder of order even amid commerce. Monks walked barefoot, offering blessings or carrying texts to be copied. Each figure belonged to a larger web, each exchange a note in the melody of daily life. In a moment, you'll see how the town's rhythm shaped not only trade, but the spirit of community. The main street bustles with voices, yet none are harsh. Merchants call softly to passers-by, offering persimmons or tea, while customers pause to admire their wares. Children dart between stalls, clutching sweets wrapped in paper. A musician sits cross-legged at the corner, plucking a shamisen, his notes weaving through the crowd like threads of silver sound. Nearby, a storyteller holds an audience with gentle gestures, describing tales of heroes and spirits, his voice rising and falling like waves. The crowd listens, nods, and chuckles quietly, grateful for both the story and the pause it provides from their tasks. Step with me into one of the shops. Its doorway is shaded by a curtain of indigo cloth, and inside, shelves are filled with ceramics, bowls smooth and pale, jars glazed in earthy tones, teapots adorned with cranes and waves. The potter himself bows as you enter, his hands still stained faintly with clay. He speaks softly of the care taken in each piece, how the glaze must be watched carefully as the fire shapes it, how a crack can turn flaw into beauty. The shop is more than commerce. It is a gallery of patience, an offering of craftsmanship to the community. Beyond the shops, tea houses line the street. Step inside one, where tatami mats soften your steps and steam rises from pots of tea. Travelers rest here, their sandals left neatly at the door. A woman pours tea into small cups, her movements calm and precise. The tea tastes earthy, slightly bitter, but refreshing after the dust of the road. Conversations here are hushed but lively. Farmers speak of harvests, merchants discuss prices, monks share parables. The tea house becomes not only a place of rest but connection, where people who might never otherwise meet exchange words, laughter, and news. Stay close, because here, too, the unseen ties of temple and castle thread through daily life. Taxes on goods were collected for lords, and shrines or temples often stood near the heart of the town, their bells ringing softly over the bustle. Samurai might stop at these places to pray before moving on, their armor gleaming faintly in lantern light. In this way, even the market town balanced between worlds. Commerce, faith, and governance all intersecting in its streets. Doesn't it feel reassuring to imagine such harmony existing in a place of trade? As the sun lowers, the market glows with lanterns. Their light bathes the street in soft gold, illuminating faces and goods alike. The crowds thin slightly, but the town does not fall silent. Musicians play, storytellers continue, and inns welcome weary travelers. Inside the inns, fires crackle in hearths, warming pots of soup and trays of rice. Guests share meals at low tables, their shadows dancing on the walls. Laughter rises gently, not in bursts, but like steady waves against a shore. In the corners, travelers unroll bedding, content to rest near the warmth of others, strangers bound together by the same road. Outside, the night deepens. The river beside the town reflects lanterns, its current carrying their glow downstream. Dogs bark softly in the distance, and the sound of shamisen strings drifts into the air. Above, the stars spread wide, their constellations mirrored in the river below. The market town rests, yet it breathes with the memory of the day's exchanges. Goods, stories, prayers, and meals all woven together. Stay with me here, because market towns were not only about goods but about flow, the flow of people, of ideas, of connections. They were the veins through which life moved, keeping castles supplied, temples supported, and villages tied to one another. Without them, the harmony of ancient Japan could not have held. And in that flow, even the humblest act, offering a bowl, lighting a lantern, pouring tea, became part of something greater. Now, imagine walking slowly down the lantern-lit street at night. Your steps are quiet, the air cool, the voices have hushed, the stalls are closed, but the town still glows with warmth. A musician plucks one last song, his notes soft and lingering. You stop for a moment, letting the sound wrap around you. The temple bell tolls in the distance, its deep resonance folding into the night. You breathe in, breathe out, and feel the peace of this place settle around you like a blanket. Tomorrow, we'll step away from the market and follow the paths into countryside once more, where pilgrimages and sacred mountains shaped another layer of life in ancient Japan. But tonight, let the quiet glow of the market town remain with you, steady as the stars above. The path winds upward into the hills, narrow and shaded. Where cedars and pines rise tall and straight, their trunks like pillars in a vast cathedral of green. The air cools as you climb, carrying the smell of moss and damp earth, and the sound of running water follows you, slipping over stones and hidden streams. This is no ordinary road. It is a pilgrimage route, one that countless feet have followed, from peasants carrying small offerings to lords seeking blessings, to monks whose whole lives are defined by these journeys. Each step forward feels like a step inward, into a quieter part of yourself. Stay with me, because these pilgrimages were not only physical but spiritual. People walked for days or weeks, leaving behind their homes, their tasks, their worries, to seek connection with something larger. At the start, the path feels like any road, edged with bamboo and villages. But soon, as you move deeper into mountains, the world changes. The air grows cooler, sounds grow softer, and the rhythm of your steps becomes the only constant. The first twist of the story lies here. The pilgrim does not walk only to reach a shrine or temple. They walk to shed burdens, to feel each step as a prayer. In a moment, you'll see why the journey itself mattered as much as the destination. Along the trail, small stone statues watch silently. Some are carved into the rock itself, weathered by rain and wind. Others are simple figures draped in red cloth bibs, placed lovingly by villagers. Each represents compassion, protection, or memory. Travelers bow as they pass, sometimes leaving coins, sometimes only a thought. These statues remind pilgrims that they are never truly alone. The mountain holds them, the spirits walk with them, and each step is witnessed. Doesn't that idea soothe you? The sense that even in solitude, you are held by the presence of countless others who walk before you? The forest opens at times to reveal small shrines. They stand on stone bases, their wooden roofs curve like gentle wings, their doors adorned with ropes and paper streamers that flutter in the wind. Some shrines are modest, with nothing but a carved post and a bowl for offerings. Others glow with lanterns lit by the hands of pilgrims who arrive before you. In front of them, people kneel, clap softly, and bow, whispering prayers to the mountain gods. The prayers are often simple, for health, for safe harvest, for the strength to keep walking. Yet the act of pausing, of offering breath and intention, makes the journey sacred. As you walk higher, the path grows steeper. Rocks jut from the ground, roots twist across the way, and the sound of your sandals scuffing blends with the rustle of leaves. A cool mist begins to gather, rolling down the slopes like silk. The mist softens everything, edges of trees, outlines of statues, even the sound of your own breath. Pilgrims often describe such moments as walking between worlds, neither fully earth nor fully spirit, suspended in a hush that feels eternal. Stay with me, because in this quiet mist, you'll notice something. The journey teaches you to slow, to breathe, to let each step be enough. By midday, you arrive at a mountain temple. Its gate stands tall, painted vermilion that glows even in fog. Beyond the gate, wide stone steps climb toward wooden halls perched against the slope. Monks tend to lanterns, their robes brushing the ground as they move with calm precision. Inside the main hall, candles flicker before statues of deities carved from dark wood. Pilgrims kneel here, some with tears in their eyes, not from sorrow but from the relief of arrival, from the feeling that every step, every ache in their legs, has brought them closer to something real. The temple breathes around you, each chant, each bell strike, weaving you into its rhythm. The monks welcome travelers with warmth. They offer bowls of rice and tea, simple meals that feel like feasts after the climb. Pilgrims sit together on tatama mats, strangers at first, but soon bound by the shared journey. Conversations are soft, often little more than shared nods or words of gratitude. Here, there is no need for titles or wealth. Everyone is simply a pilgrim, equal in fatigue, equal in awe. Isn't it comforting, this leveling of the world, where only the walk and the breath matter? In the afternoon, the temple grounds invite reflection. Gardens of gravel and moss stretch out, carefully arranged yet effortless in their beauty. A single rock, a single lantern, becomes the center of attention. A small pond reflects cedar branches above, its surface stirred only by the dip of a dragonfly. Pilgrims sit quietly, watching the water, listening to the distant bell. In such moments, the journey inward mirrors the journey outward. The mind calms, the body softens, and clarity arrives like a gentle breeze. Stay with me, because the descent is as much a part of pilgrimage as the climb. When pilgrims leave a temple, they carry something intangible, a sense of stillness, a memory of mist and bells, a reminder that life itself is a path to be walked with care. Going down the mountain, the steps feel lighter. The statues by the roadside seem like familiar companions. Even the sound of water in the streams feels changed, as though you now hear it more fully. The village at the mountain's base greets you again, its smoke rising, its fields stretching wide, and you bring back not only your body but your spirit renewed. Night falls on the mountain, and lanterns glow at the gates of shrines and temples. Pilgrims rest in small inns, their mats laid out, their bodies weary but their hearts light. Outside, the forest sighs, the wind moving gently through branches. Above, stars peek through breaks in the mist, distant yet steady. The day ends as it began, with steps, with breath, with silence. The pilgrimage, though complete, continues within each traveler, carried like a flame that can be passed quietly to others. As you lie here, listening to the echoes of bells in the distance, imagine yourself as one of those travelers. Each step you take is enough. Each breath is a prayer. And tomorrow, we'll follow the path not to mountains, but to the seas, where fishing villages and coastal shrines shaped another face of ancient Japan. For now, let the rhythm of the pilgrimage linger in your body, like the memory of walking misty trails lined with cedar and stone. The sea greets you before you see it. First, it is a smell, the salt carried inland by breezes, sharp and bracing yet softened by the sweetness of seaweed drying on shore. Then it is a sound, the low and steady rhythm of waves rolling in, one after another, as the earth itself is breathing slowly. Finally, it is a sight, the horizon stretching wide, a band of silver and blue beneath the rising sun. Fishing villages sit close to the water, their thatched roofs clustered together like shells washed onto the shore. These villages live by the tides, their rhythm bound not to lords or temples but to the eternal pulse of the ocean. Stay with me, because life here offers its own gentle revelations. Imagine a fisherman rising before dawn, the stars still scattered faintly above. He pulls on a robe of rough cloth, ties a sash around his waist, and steps quietly from his home. His boat waits on the beach, its wooden hull creaking softly in the tide. With others, he pushes it out, their feet sinking into wet sand, their breaths visible in the morning chill. The sea swallows them quickly, their silhouettes merging with the waves. Fishing was not simply work. It was trust, a partnership with forces larger than oneself. In a moment, you'll see how this partnership shaped not only survival but culture itself. Back in the village, women tend to nets. They sit in clusters, their hands quick and practiced, weaving and repairing with rhythm that matches the sound of surf. Children play nearby, chasing each other across the sand, their laughter carried by the wind. Fires are lit in clay stoves, preparing rice and miso soup for when the men return. Even as waves crash, the village hums with its own softer rhythm. The clack of wood, the murmur of voices, the hiss of fire. Doesn't it feel comforting, this harmony of separate tasks blending into one shared life? By midday, boats return, their hulls heavy with the sea's gifts. Fish glisten in baskets, their scales reflecting light. like scattered jewels. Seaweed, kelp, and shellfish are unloaded too, each destined for market or family meal. The catch is divided with care, some for the household, some offered to shrines, some dried or salted for trade. Fishermen bow slightly toward the sea, a gesture of gratitude, a recognition that each return is not guaranteed. In every gesture lies humility, a quiet understanding of life's fragility and abundance. Stay close, because the sea was more than food. It was a teacher. It taught patience, as nets would come back heavy or empty. It taught endurance, as storms could rise without warning. And it taught reverence, as the ocean was seen as sacred, home to deities whose mood shaped every tide. Shrines often stood near the shore, their gates facing the waves. Fishermen and their families prayed there, leaving offerings of rice or sake, asking for safe passage and abundant catches. The sound of the bell at these shrines mingled with the crash of surf, a reminder that divine and earthly rhythms were one. Step now into a fishing family's home. Inside, mats cover floor, and bundles of seaweed hang from the beams to dry. The air smells of salt, smoke, and rice cooking over fire. A woman tends a pot, adding miso and vegetables, while her children wait with eager eyes. The fisherman enters, weary but content, placing his catch carefully before the hearth. They eat together, each bite simple yet sustaining. Between sips of soup, stories are told, of waves that seem to sing, of stars that guided boats, of dolphins glimpsed in the distance. The sea is not only livelihood, it is the source of tales, myths, and memories. In the evenings, the village gathers on the beach. Nets are checked, boats repaired, but soon the work slows, and people sit together watching the horizon. The sun sinks, painting the water in hues of gold and crimson. A shamisen might be played, its notes mingling with the hush of waves. Lanterns glow along the shore, their light soft against the growing dark. For a moment, the sea and sky seem endless, and the village feels like a small yet cherished hearth flickering against the vastness. Stay with me, because festivals by the sea shimmer with life. At certain times of year, villagers carry small boats filled with offerings and lanterns, setting them adrift into the waves. The boats float away, their flames glowing like stars upon water, carrying prayers to the gods of the sea. Drums beat softly, children laugh, and elders chant blessings. The ocean reflects each light, multiplying them into constellations that move with the tide. Isn't it soothing to imagine the night sky mirrored upon the waves, the earth and heavens joined through fire, water, and faith? When storms come, the village pulls together. Boats are dragged high onto the shore, nets secured, shutters close against the wind. The storm howls, rain lashes, and yet within each home the fire burns steady. Families sit close, wrapped in blankets, listening to the storm's fury outside. There is fear, yes, but also resilience, born of centuries of living by the sea. And when the storm passes, the air is sharp and clean, the waves calmer, and the villagers step out once more to repair, rebuild, and continue. The sea, like life itself, always demanded renewal. At night, when the village grows still, the sound of waves becomes a lullaby. Fishermen sleep on mats, their bodies heavy from labor, while children dream of boats and dolphins. The moon reflects upon the water, its silver path stretching far beyond sight. Sometimes monks travel through, offering prayers at the shore, and even samurai pause here, humbled by the sea's endlessness. Villages by the water lived simply, yet they were connected to every part of Japan through trade, stories, and faith carried on the tide. So imagine now sitting on the sand at night, a lantern beside you, the waves whispering in rhythm with your breath. The stars shimmer above, the sea answers below, and you feel yourself small yet held in a vast embrace. Tomorrow, we will walk inland again, into the forest where hunters and gatherers shaped another side of life. But tonight, let the sea's lullaby remain with you, as steady and timeless as the tide. The forest waits for you just beyond the last rice field, and as you step into its shade, the world changes. The open sky gives way to tall trees that stretch upward, their branches knitting together to form a canopy of green. The air here is cooler, damp with the scent of moss and pine. Sunlight filters through in soft beams, falling across the forest floor, where ferns uncurl and mushrooms cluster like small lanterns. Birds call in gentle tones, their songs layer with a distant rustle of leaves. The forest of ancient Japan was not only a place of mystery, it was home, hearth, and sanctuary for those who lived by its rhythm. Stay with me, because here among the trunks and shadows, we meet another side of daily life. The hunters and gatherers who relied upon the forest's gifts. Long before the rice fields spread wide across valleys, people here depended on the trees, streams, and animals for sustenance. Even when agriculture grew, the forest remained essential. Men set out at dawn, bows strung and spears sharpened, walking with quiet steps so as not to startle deer. Their clothing blended with the woods, rough fabric dyed in muted tones. Beside them ran dogs, loyal companions trained to track and flush game. Gatherers, often women, children, and elders, moved more slowly, carrying woven baskets on their backs. They plucked nuts, berries, and wild greens, their hands skilled at knowing which leaves could heal and which could harm. Roots were dug carefully with wooden tools, each one washed in streams that glittered between rocks. Mushrooms were examined under the light, their forms memorized by generations of knowledge. Every walk into the forest was both practical and sacred, a way of sustaining the body while deepening the bond with the land. Imagine now a hunter pausing at the edge of a clearing. Before him, a deer grazes, its ears flicking at the faintest sound. The hunter breathes slowly, his bow steady, but in that moment he whispers a prayer. For in these forests, no animal was merely prey. They were spirits too, embodiments of the mountains and rivers. To take life was a solemn act, one that required reverence and gratitude. When an animal was caught, offerings were often left, sometimes a branch of green or a simple bough to the forest. This cycle of respect ensured balance, a balance that made life possible. Stay with me a little longer, because the forest offered more than food. It gave timber for homes, firewood for hearths, bark for rope, and herbs for medicine. Children gathered fallen branches and pine cones, their laughter soft among the trees. Elderly women knew the places where medicinal plants grew, leaves that could soothe fever or roots that eased pain. Hunters found streams where fish glimmered, caught by hand or net, their scales flashing like stars beneath the water. To live near the forest was to live surrounded by gifts, each one carefully received, never taken for granted. At night, the forest grew darker, filled with sounds that stirred both wonder and caution. Owls hooted, foxes pattered unseen, and the wind itself seemed to carry voices. Villagers told stories by firelight of spirits who wandered the woods. Kami, the unseen presences that lived in stones, rivers, and trees. Shrines stood deep in groves, small wooden structures with simple roofs, where offerings of rice or sake were left. Hunters and gatherers bowed here before each journey, asking for guidance, safety, and harmony with the spirits who shared their home. Picture a small village on the forest's edge. The homes are wooden, their roofs thatched with straw, smoke curling from each as fires warm rice and stews. After a day of gathering, baskets are laid out, filled with chestnuts, walnuts, persimmons, and herbs. Hunters return with fish, or perhaps a deer, carefully butchered and divided among families. Meals are prepared slowly with miso, greens, and wild mushrooms simmering together. The fragrance drifts into the cool night air, mingling with the earthy scent of leaves. Around the fire, stories are shared, of hunts, of dreams, of the kami who bless and sometimes test them. There is comfort in these evenings. Imagine the children curled close to the fire, the dogs lying at their feet. Outside, the forest whispers, but inside the walls there is warmth and safety. Elders recount tales of long-ago ancestors, of the first hunters who followed the deer trails, of the first healers who learned the plant secrets. These stories pass from one generation to the next like embers kept alive, ensuring knowledge is never lost. The forest, in its vastness, holds countless secrets, but through stories, its wisdom flows into every heart. Stay with me, because sometimes the forest revealed itself in unexpected ways. In autumn, its trees blaze with color, red and gold reflected in quiet pools. In spring, cherry blossoms open in scattered groves, petals drifting like snow across mossy paths. These transformations were not only beautiful, they were reminders of time's passage, of life cycles. The same paths walked in spring looked utterly new in autumn, and so each journey felt fresh, Even the feet knew every stone. To live by the forest was to witness change constantly, to learn that nothing remained the same for long, and yet all was connected. In moments of ritual, the forest was a temple. Priests and monks sometimes came, their robes rustling softly as they walked barefoot among roots and streams. They performed ceremonies beneath towering trees, chanting sutras that blended with bird call and wind. Hunters and gatherers watched silently, sensing the closeness of the divine. When lanterns were lit in the groves, their glow seemed to awaken the trunks and stones, casting the forest not as wilderness but as sacred dwelling. And so, as you rest here with me in thought, imagine sitting at the edge of such a grove. A soft fire burns beside you, its smoke trailing upward into the canopy. Around you are baskets of gathered chestnuts, drying herbs, and tools laid neatly on cloth. Somewhere in the distance, the crack of a bowstring sounds, followed by silence and then a soft prayer. You are part of this rhythm now, of life taken and life given, of balance kept between humans and spirits, of hearth fires warming against the night. Soon, we will step beyond these woods into the world of artisans and craftsmen, where skill and beauty wove together into the fabric of daily life. But for now, let the hush of the forest linger. Let the scent of pine, the sound of rustling leaves, and the faint crackle of fire fill your thoughts. Breathe slowly, as if your breath matches the rhythm of wind to the trees, and know that you are safe within this timeless embrace. The village hums differently when you step into the world of artisans. Here, the rhythm is not the call of waves nor the hush of the forest, but the steady beat of hammer against iron, the rasp of a blade on whetstone, the hiss of clay meeting flame. This is a world where hands transform raw earth, wood, and metal into tools, vessels, and beauty. Stay close with me now, because the artisans of ancient Japan carried more than skill. They carried traditions that gave shape to everyday life, quiet wonders that filled kitchens, temples, and even battlefields. Imagine first the forge, where the blacksmith works. His hearth glows like an ember against the dim of dawn. Sparks rise into the smoky air as he strikes glowing iron again and again. The sound is deep, steady, like a heartbeat for the village. His arms move with practiced ease, each strike shaping the blade a little closer to perfection. But here is a twist. Not every blacksmith forged swords for samurai. Many worked simply for the farmer or fisherman, crafting hoes, sickles, nails, or fish hooks. Tools, humble yet indispensable, mattered as much as weapons. In this way, the rhythm of the hammer sustained harvests, kitchens, and livelihoods long before it armed warriors. Stay with me, because every artisan's work touched daily life. Step now into a potter's workshop. The wheel spins slowly, guided by the craftsman's steady hands. Clay rises, bends, and forms into bowls, jars, and cups. The air smells of damp earth, of firewood stacked nearby for the kiln. Children peer in, watching as lumps of mud transform into graceful vessels that will carry rice, miso, or tea. Patterns may be carved, glazes brushed, but even the simplest bowl carries beauty, because it holds not only food but the care of the one who shaped it. To drink from such a cup was to sip from another's patience and devotion. In another home, a weaver works at her loom. Threads of cotton or silk stretch in soft tension, her shuttle moving back and forth with a gentle clack. The fabric grows steadily, its pattern emerging like dawn over the horizon. Some cloth is plain, destined for robes of everyday wear, while others gleam with colors meant for temples or the attire of nobility. Her fingers fly, swift and sure, but in her quiet hum you hear something more. The weaving of stories, of bonds, of continuity between mother and daughter, master and apprentice. Doesn't it soothe you to imagine the slow unfolding of fabric, as steady and certain as time itself? Let us pause now, as artisans often did, to breathe and look. Their work was not rushed, because haste would spoil the blade, the bowl, the cloth. Each strike, each brush of glaze, each pass of the shuttle was an act of focus and reverence. Artisans lived close to imperfection, too, for kilns cracked clay, iron bent unevenly, dyes ran in unexpected ways. Yet even flaws held value, reminding them that beauty was not perfection, but balance. This sensibility shaped what we now know as wabi-sabi, the quiet acceptance of impermanence and imperfection. Stay with me, because the artisan's world extended beyond the workshop. Their creations traveled, A farmer carried his forged sickle into the rice fields, its sharpness cutting stalks cleanly. A family poured steaming miso soup into a clay bowl, its warmth seeping into hands on a winter night. A priest unfolded a silk cloth upon the altar, its colors shimmering in the light of candles. Even a samurai, famed for his sword, relied on artisans for his armor, his tea bowl, his writing brush. The unseen touch of these craftsmen and women was everywhere, quietly sustaining the fabric of life. Festivals often brought artisans into the heart of celebration. Stalls lined with pottery, lacquered wood, or woven cloth filled temple courtyards, each piece gleaming in lantern light. Shoppers moved slowly, picking up bowls, testing weight in their palms, running fingers along polished wood. Children tugged at their mothers, drawn to painted toys or carved figurines. The air was filled with music, laughter, and the mingled smells of incense and grilled food. For artisans, such moments were not only about trade but about sharing. Each object carried their spirit outward into another home, another hearth. And yet, artistry was also sacred. Step into a temple workshop, where lacquerers coat wooden statues of the Buddha with layer after layer of glossy black and gold. The scent is sharp, resinous, filling the air with the tang of tree sap. Monks assist, their hands steady as they polish each curve until the figure glows softly in candlelight. The work may take months, even years, but it is done not for profit, but devotion. To create beauty here was to offer prayer, to make visible the reverence hidden within the heart. At night, when workshops quiet, artisans sit by their hearths like everyone else. The blacksmith's arms ache from hammering. The potter's hands are stained with clay, the weaver's eyes heavy from watching threads. Yet there is satisfaction, too, for each knows that tomorrow their work will again serve life. In the soft crackle of fire, they sip tea, perhaps from their own vessel, and watch children drift into sleep. Outside, the village hums with crickets, while lanterns glow faintly on the paths. Inside, the tools rest, ready for another day. Stay a moment longer, because the artisan's way of life holds a lesson for us too. They remind us that greatness often hides in the ordinary. A blade cutting rice, a bowl cradling soup, a cloth wrapped around shoulders. All carry the quiet presence of hands that shape them. Their rhythm, patient and steady, becomes part of daily ritual, part of memory. Even centuries later, when we hold a fragment of pottery or glimpse an old lacquer statue, we can almost hear the hammers ring, the looms clack, the brushes whisper. These echoes comfort us, reminding us that human hands, guided by care, leave traces that outlast time. So, as you breathe slowly now, picture yourself in an artisan's workshop. The forge glows, or the wheel spins, or the loom hums. It does not matter which, because each rhythm is steady, like a lullaby. Sparks rise into the air. Threads flow between fingers. Clay spins into shape. You sit nearby, wrapped in warmth, listening, watching, safe. Tomorrow, we will walk further into the heart of temples, where chanting and incense fill the air. But tonight, let the artisan's rhythm linger, a steady hum that carries you gently toward rest. The air grows cooler as we leave the villages and enter the shadow of the mountains. Paths wind upward through forests of cedar and pine, their trunks straight and tall, their roots weaving into the earth like veins of memory. The forest hushes the world into stillness, and only the soft rustle of leaves or the call of a bird disturbs the quiet. It is here, high above the fields and seas, that temples were raised. Monks sought the peaks because mountains touched the sky, a place where heaven and earth seemed to meet. Stay close with me, because life within these temples was its own world, set apart yet deeply connected to all that lay below. The first sight of a temple is not the building, but the gate. A torii stands tall, painted vermilion. It's wood weathered yet strong. Passing beneath it feels like stepping into another realm, a realm of prayer, silence, and discipline. Lanterns line the path beyond, their stone surfaces worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain. Moss covers their bases, and ferns grow close at hand. In the distance, bells toll slowly, their deep notes carrying through the forest like ripples on water. And then the temple itself appears. Wooden beams rise from stone foundations, their roofs curve gently upward as if to lift prayers skyward. The tiles glisten with dew, and carved dragons or phoenixes guard the eaves. A wide courtyard spreads before the hall, gravel raked into neat patterns, each line precise. Here monks walk with soft steps, their robes brushing against the ground, their sandals leaving only faint marks. The air smells of incense, of cedar wood, of rain that lingers in shaded places. Inside, the main hall glows with soft light. Candles flicker before statues of the Buddha or Bodhisattvas, their serene faces cast in bronze or carved in wood. Gold leaf shimmers faintly, catching each movement of flame. Monks chant sutras in unison, their voices deep resonant, yet soothing, like waves rolling upon shore. The chant does not rush. It flows slowly, each syllable steady, each pause deliberate. Stay with me, because listening to it, even across centuries, feels like listening to the breath of time itself. Life within these temples was simple, yet disciplined. Monks rose before dawn, their days measured not by wealth or power, but by ritual. At the ringing of a bell, they gathered for morning prayers. They knelt upon mats, their backs straight, their voices joining in harmony. After prayers came meditation, sitting still for long stretches, focusing on breath, on silence, on the clearing of thought. It was said that even the faintest drop of water falling into a basin could become a focus for enlightenment if one truly listened. Meals were plain, yet mindful. A bowl of rice, a few pickled vegetables, perhaps soup of miso and greens. Each bite was eaten with awareness, gratitude, and without waste. The clatter of bowls was hushed. Silence accompanied each meal, so that the act of eating became part practice. In this way, even food became a form of prayer, a reminder that sustenance itself was a gift, not to be taken lightly. Stay with me, because temple life was not only prayer and silence. Monks worked with their hands too. They swept courtyards, tended gardens, copied texts, and cared for visitors. In gardens, they raked gravel into ripples, placed stones with care, trimmed trees so that each branch expressed balance. These gardens were not for beauty alone, but for reflection. Walking among them calmed the heart, as patterns of sand and rock mirrored the patterns of thought. Scribes sat by lantern light, brushes in hand, copying sutras onto parchment. The sound of brush against paper was soft, steady, like rain falling upon leaves. Each stroke was deliberate, each character carrying not only words but devotion. In this way, teaching spread, not through loud voices but through careful hands, through ink that flowed patiently across centuries. Pilgrims often climbed to these temples, carrying offerings of rice, coins, or prayer slips. Some came seeking healing, others guidance, others only peace. They knelt before statues, lit incense, and bowed their heads. Monks greeted them not with pomp but with quiet warmth, offering tea or words of comfort. For many villagers, the temple was not distant at all, but a living part of their lives, a place where burdens could be set down, if only for a moment. At dusk, the temple transformed again. Candles glowed brighter against the deepening dark. The forest outside grew hushed, the cicadas fading into night calls of owls. Monks walked the corridors with lanterns, their steps echoing softly against wooden floors. The great bell tolled once more, its note carrying to the valley, resonant and lingering, as if reminding all who heard it that time itself moves slowly, but always moves. Stay with me a little longer, because within these halls, philosophy flowed quietly. Some monks followed Zen, seeking clarity through meditation, gardens, and koans, riddles that could not be solved with logic, but only with insight. Others followed Pure Land, chanting the name of Amida Buddha with devotion, trusting in compassion to carry them beyond suffering. Both paths, though different, shared the same heart, to bring stillness, to ease the mind, to awaken kindness. When night deepened, monks returned to their quarters. They slept upon simple mats, their robes folded neatly, their rooms uncluttered. The only sound was the sigh of wind through trees, the creak of wood, the occasional rustle of fabric as someone turned in sleep. Outside, the moon rose, casting silver light across the tiled roofs, across the raked gravel, across statues that stood watchful yet serene. Can you feel it now? The stillness, the rhythm of bells, chants, and silence. Life here was slower, yet in its slowness it touched something eternal. As you breathe gently, imagine sitting on the wooden veranda of the temple, a cup of tea in your hands. The garden spread before you, lanterns glow softly, and the night hums with peace. Tomorrow, we will descend from the mountains once more, to walk through the bustling markets that tied villages, towns, and temples together. But tonight, let the chant of monks and the toll of bells linger in your heart, steady and soft as breath. Morning comes differently in the markets than it does in the quiet of temples or the stillness of fishing villages. Instead of bells tolling slowly through mist, you hear the bustle of footsteps on wooden planks, the creak of carts being pushed along uneven roads, and the gentle rising murmur of voices as stallholders prepare for the day. Stay with me now, because markets were the crossroads of ancient Japan, places where rice from distant paddies, fish from coastal waters, lacquerware from artisans, and incense from temples all came together in one living, breathing current. The market begins to stir at dawn. Merchants unfurl mats across the ground or open wooden shutters, setting out baskets, bowls, and rolls of fabric. Farmers arrive with bundles of radishes, turnips, and leafy greens, their carts still damp with morning dew. Fishmongers lay out their catch, silver scales gleaming in the first light, while the scent of the sea mingles with the smell of freshly cut vegetables. A potter carefully arranges his wares, bowls, cups, jars. Each one turns slightly so the morning sun warms its glaze. Already you can sense that this place is alive in a way the mountains and forests are not. It is noisy, fragrant, colorful, yet never overwhelming, because the rhythm of the market has its own gentle order. Children weave between stalls, their laughter bright as they point at toys carved from wood or painted tops that spin with dazzling colors. Housewives carry baskets, pausing to touch cloth, to press fruit, to ask prices. Samurai pass through as well, their swords at their sides, perhaps stopping to purchase tea or lacquered writing boxes. Monks appear too, bowls in hand, receiving alms of rice or coins, which they accept with bows and soft chants of gratitude. In a moment, you'll see why this mix of people mattered so much. The market was not just for goods, it was for connection. Imagine standing at the center of the market square. Around you, voices rise and fall like waves on the sea. A vendor calls out softly, offering sweet dumplings made from rice flour and filled with bean paste, their steam curling into the cool air. Another sells skewers of fish grilled over charcoal, their smoky aroma drifting temptingly. Someone further down offers tea brewed fresh, poured into small cups for weary travelers. The mingling of scents is like a woven fabric of life itself. Smoke, spice, sweetness, and the earthiness of vegetables. Stay with me, because the market carried stories as much as goods. A fisherman might trade not only his catch, but tales of storms at sea, warning farmers of weather to come. A monk might share a verse of scripture with a passing samurai, who would carry it back to his household. An artisan selling lacquer bowls might speak of distant forests where the sap was gathered, carrying images of places the villagers may never see. In this way, the market was both a map and a mirror, showing each person how they fit into a web larger than their own home. Walk with me down a narrow lane lined with stalls of fabric, bolts of cotton and silk draped from wooden beams, their colors muted yet graceful, indigo, soft brown, pale cream. Women run their hands across the cloth, murmuring about the weight, the pattern, the use. Some choose plain fabric to be dyed later, while others save coin for rare silks, shimmering faintly in the light. A tailor sits nearby, ready to take measurements, his scissors glinting as he prepares to cut cloth into future garments. Every robe, every sash begins as cloth chosen here, beneath the hum of voices and the watch of lanterns. Further on, the market swells with sound. Drummers perform near a shrine at the edge of the square, their steady rhythm drawing a small crowd. Dancers, masked and costumed, weave gracefully, their steps a blend of ritual and entertainment. Children laugh and clap, merchants pause in their selling to watch, and the performance becomes another offering, not of goods, but of joy. This, too, was part of market life, the sharing of spirit, the reminder that even amid trade and toil, there is room for music, for laughter, for beauty. And yet, the market was also a teacher of patience. Bargaining was soft, polite, almost musical. A customer might bow slightly, offering fewer coins, while the seller responds with smile and a suggestion, adjusting prices gently. as if in conversation rather than competition. Both understood the balance. Goods at value, but so did kindness. Transactions were not only exchanges of rice or silk, but exchanges of trust, weaving relationships that would last through many market days. Stay with me, because night at the market held its own magic. As the sun sank, lanterns were lit one by one, their warm glow reflecting on lacquer bowls, on polished swords, on the gentle curve of pottery. The stalls that sold food remained busy, their fires glowing, their smoke curling upward like prayers. People lingered longer, sipping tea, eating dumplings, talking softly in the growing dark. A shamisen might be played, its strings humming gently, filling the air with melody. The market, alive with energy by day, softened into something almost like a village hearth by night. When the last stalls closed, the market did not truly end. Merchants packed their wares, tied bundles onto their backs or carts, and carried them home. The square grew quiet, the scent of charcoal fading, the echo of laughter drifting away. Yet the connections formed lingered. A farmer carried home not only coins but the memory of a fisherman's tale. A child hugged a wooden toy close, still smelling faintly of fresh paint. A monk walked slowly back to his temple, his bowl filled not just with rice, but with the generosity of his neighbors. Can you feel it? The market was not only a place of buying and selling. It was a place where lives met and touched, where food, stories, faith, and art mingled together. It was as vital to the rhythm of ancient Japan as the sea, the fields, or the temples. And as you sit with me now, breathing slowly, imagine yourself in that square. The lanterns glow, the voices hum softly. The air smells of grilled fish and sweet dumplings. You walk slowly, wrapped in a robe, the night safe around you, the market fading into memory. Tomorrow, we will step away from trade and return to homes of samurai, where discipline and poetry met under the same roof. But tonight, let the memory of the market carry you gently into rest, a reminder that even in the busiest places, harmony can be found in the weaving together of many lives. The market fades behind us now, its lanterns dimmed and its voices softened into memory. Ahead lies a quieter but no less vivid world, the household of the samurai. You may imagine a life filled only with swords and stern faces, yet to step inside reveals something gentler, more layered, and more human. These were homes where discipline met poetry, where duty coexisted with warmth, and where the rustle of fabric or the brush of ink across paper mattered as much as the ring of steel. Come with me, and together we'll enter this world softly, as guests welcomed into a home that carries centuries of stories. At the entrance stands a wooden gate, its beams darkened with age. The garden beyond is carefully tended, though modest, a small pond where koi swim lazily, stones placed with care, and pine trees shaped by years of pruning. Gravel paths crunch softly underfoot, each step measured and quiet. Before we enter, sandals are removed, and we step onto the smooth wooden veranda. The boards creak gently, carrying the echo of countless footsteps before ours. Sliding doors open, and the interior greets us with simplicity, tatami mats woven of straw, paper screens filtering light, and the faint scent of incense lingering from morning prayers. The head of the household, a samurai lord perhaps, kneels with grace to greet visitors. His robe is plain, though the fabric is fine, his posture upright yet unforced. There is no need for display here, for dignity rests not in ornament but in restraint. His wife bows gently as well, her sleeves trailing elegantly as she sets out tea. Children peek shyly from behind a screen, their laughter muffled but eager. Within this space, you can sense the blending of stern duty and tender affection, like the balance of yin and yang. Stay with me, because the rhythm of life here is unlike that of fishermen or artisans. The day begins early with practice in the courtyard. The samurai kneels before his sword, bowing before drawing it, his movements slow, deliberate, precise. Each cut through the air is like a breath, each stance rooted in balance. He trains not only his body but his spirit, because for him, the sword is not a tool of aggression, but a mirror of discipline. Children watch in the veranda, sometimes imitating with sticks, their giggles softened by the stillness of morning. And as you breathe slowly now, imagine the sound of fabric rustling, the faint whistle of the blade through air, steady and controlled. Inside, The household hums with quieter tasks. The wife oversees the preparation of meals. Rice steamed gently, vegetables simmered, miso soup stirred with care. Servants move silently, their steps light across tatami. Even in cooking, there is discipline. Each portion measured, each bowl placed with care. Meals are not extravagant, but they are nourishing, reflecting the principle of balance. Eating together. The family bows their heads first in thanks, then lifts their chopsticks in unison. Silence often accompanies meals, but it is a comfortable silence, one filled with presence rather than absence. When the day slows, poetry enters the home. Samurai were not only warriors, but also poets, calligraphers, and admirers of beauty. Brush and ink are brought forth, and on parchment, verses take shape. A single line may capture the feeling of the evening breeze, the sight of a crane lifting from the pond, or the loneliness of a distant mountain. Children learn too, their small hands guided in the strokes of characters. Laughter mingles with correction, and the home fills with the gentle rhythm of brush against paper. Doesn't it soothe you to imagine the hush of ink drying, the lantern light glowing faintly upon fresh calligraphy? Stay with me, because music often flowed here as well. A samurai might pluck the strings of a biwa, its notes resonant and deep, filling the rooms with soft echoes. Or a wife might play the koto, her fingers gliding along strings, weaving melodies as delicate as falling petals. Children might sing softly, their voices rising like sparrows. Music in these homes was not performance but intimacy, a way to share spirit, to soften the edges of duty with beauty. Festivals brought new energy to samurai households. Lanterns were hung, robes of brighter color worn, and offerings made at nearby shrines. Guests arrived, bringing gifts of sake or scrolls, and laughter filled the halls. Yet even then, restraint shaped the joy. Movements were measured, voices never too loud, for dignity remained a quiet frame around every celebration. Imagine lanterns glowing in the garden, their light reflecting on the pond, while guests spoke softly and children chased fireflies. It was joy contained, a flame steady rather than wild. Yet the household was not untouched by burden. Letters sometimes arrived from lords, summoning the samurai to duty, to guard, to travel, or to train others. Farewells were quiet but heavy, wives bowing deeply, children holding back tears. But within the home remained strength, for the rhythm of daily life continued. Gardens tended, meals cooked, prayers offered. In absence, discipline became comfort, reminding each member that life carried on and that bonds endure beyond presence. As evening falls, the household grows softer still. Candles are lit, their flames swaying gently in the night air. The family gathers once more, sitting upon mats, sipping tea, speaking quietly. Perhaps a story is told, of ancestors, of battles long past, of journeys through mountains or across seas. Children lean closer, eyes heavy, until their heads rest upon sleeves or laps. Later, futons are laid out, the fabric rustling softly as each person settles. The house breathes with the night, its walls thin enough to let in the sound of crickets, yet strong enough to hold peace. Can you feel it? The samurai household was not a place of constant battle, but a place where discipline wove itself into every detail. Training, meals, poetry, music, even silence. It was here that the balance of strength and gentleness, duty and beauty, was nurtured. As you breathe with me now, imagine yourself seated upon a veranda once more, the garden spread before you, the sound of water trickling from a bamboo fountain. Lanterns flicker, the stars glow faintly above, and the household sleeps in harmony. Tomorrow, we will step into another part of ancient Japan, to explore the journeys of travelers along mountain roads. But tonight, let the quiet dignity of the samurai household settle into your dreams, steady as a sword, soft as a brushstroke. The road calls us now, winding away from the stillness of samurai homes and out into the wider landscape of ancient Japan. These were not the bustling highways of later centuries, but narrow paths pressed into earth by countless footsteps, by hooves and cartwheels, by sandals worn thin through steady travel. To follow them is to feel the country breathe in its fullness, from rice fields to forests, from river crossings to mountain passes. Stay close with me, because the story of travelers is as much about endurance as it is about wonder, quiet revelations found in the spaces between destinations. The morning begins with mist clinging low to the ground. A traveler ties his straw hat beneath his chin, adjusts the pack upon his back, and steps forward. His sandals crunch softly against gravel, and each exhale forms a faint cloud in the cool air. Along the road, others walk too, merchants carrying goods bundled in cloth, pilgrims chanting prayers as they move toward distant temples, messengers riding swiftly with scrolls bound tightly to their chests. The road does not belong to one class, but to all, a ribbon of earth binding together villages, shrines, and cities. At the edges of the path, rice paddies spread like mirrors, reflecting sky and clouds. Farmers pause from their work to watch travelers pass, offering nods or brief words. Children wave shyly, dogs bark, and the traveler smiles, bowing in return. Small roadside shrines appear often, simple wooden structures with offerings of rice or flowers, their roofs damp with dew. Travelers stop to bow, to ring a small bell, to whisper a prayer for safe passage. In a world where the journey could be as dangerous as the destination, faith was a constant companion. Stay with me, because the road itself was a teacher. It demanded patience. Days could be long, rain sudden, paths uneven. Yet in these hardships lay the beauty of slowness. Each step revealed new sights. A heron lifting from a stream, a fox darting across fields, cherry blossoms drifting gently from roadside trees. The rhythm of walking became its own meditation, a harmony of breath, stride, and sight. Even merchants carrying heavy loads found moments to pause, to share food with fellow travelers, to tell stories that softened the weight of distance. By midday, travelers sought rest at tea houses along the road. These were humble shelters with wooden benches, their air fragrant with brewing tea and roasted millet cakes. The host greeted each guest warmly, pouring steaming cups into rough clay bowls. Merchants sat side by side with farmers, pilgrims with messengers, their voices mingling in quiet talk. Here, news spread. The harvest in another province, the repair of a bridge, the building of a temple. The road carried goods, but it also carried knowledge, stitching the land together through the simple act of shared words. Crossing rivers was another rhythm of the road. Some streams were shallow enough to wade, sandals tied and robes lifted above knees. Others required ferries, flatboats guided by poles or oars, their creak and splash echoing across the water. Travelers stood together, swaying gently as the boat moved, watching ripples spread outward, watching the current tug against the wood. On the far bank, they stepped back onto earth, bowing lightly to the ferryman before continuing. Each crossing was both a pause and a reminder that life, like rivers, always flows onward. Stay close, because the mountain passes brought their own kind of quiet majesty. The road narrowed, climbing steeply between rocks and trees. Pines bent in the wind, their needles whispering. Snow lingered longer here, even as valleys bloomed below. Travelers leaned on walking sticks, their breath heavier, their steps slower, but the view from the ridges offered reward. Rolling hills, rivers glittering like threads of silver, villages no bigger than brushstrokes in the distance. Standing there, one could feel both small and infinite, a single figure within a vast and beautiful land. At dusk, travelers sought shelter in inns. These were modest wooden buildings, their lanterns glowing softly at the roadside. Inside, mats were laid out, hot rice and soup served, and weary bodies given space to rest. Merchants untied their bundles, monks set aside their staffs, and farmers stretched tired legs. Conversation was low and steady, the kind that drifts easily into silence. Outside, the wind rattled shutters, crickets sang, and fireflies blinked near streams. Within, the inn became a temporary home, where strangers shared warmth and safety for a single night. Night on the road was different from day. Lanterns guided late travelers, their flickering light bobbing in darkness. The stars revealed themselves more fully here, unbroken by roofs or walls, stretching endlessly overhead. Some travelers lay awake, listening to the distant bark of a deer, the cry of an owl, or the soft patter of rain on thatched roofs. Others slept deeply, lulled by exhaustion, and the comfort of knowing that tomorrow's steps would bring them closer to where they needed to be. Stay with me, because the road also carried memory. Each traveler left traces, a footprint in mud, a coin exchange, a prayer whispered at a shrine. Long after they passed, the road remembered. It remembered the weight of their burdens, the sound of their laughter, the warmth of their songs. Over time, paths became more than earth. They became vessels of countless journeys, carrying the spirit of those who walked them. So, as you breathe gently now, picture yourself walking such a road. The sun sets behind you. The path glows faintly in the fading light, and lanterns ahead promise shelter. Your pack is light, your steps steady, and each sound, the call of a night bird, the rustle of trees, is part of the lullaby of travel. Tomorrow, we will turn again, not to the road, but to the rivers that sustain both villages and temples. But tonight, let the memory of the traveler's road cradle you, steady and sure, like footsteps across time itself. The rivers of Japan were more than just water winding to the land. They were lifelines, carrying food, goods, and stories from one valley to another. To live beside a river was to live in rhythm with its flow, to hear its voice each morning and each night, and to trust it as both a giver and a teacher. Tonight, let us drift together along these ancient waters, imagining the steady current beneath us and the hush of nature all around. Stay close, for in these rivers lie the secrets of how communities thrived, temples rose, and samurai found passage across the country. At dawn, mist lifts gently from the surface of the water, forming ghostly ribbons that catch the pale light of the rising sun. A fisherman kneels in a small wooden boat, casting his net with a practiced sweep. The net opens like a circle of fabric against the air before sinking silently into the depths. He waits, the boat rocking gently beneath him, listening to the river's hum. Soon, silver flashes break the surface, and with one pull, the net gathers the night's gifts. Fish glisten like jewels, their scales reflecting the morning light. This, too, is history. Not grand battles or stone castles, but the quiet labor of those whose lives depended on the river's endless generosity. Stay with me, because the river was more than food source. It was also a path. Merchants loaded barges with rice, sake, salt, or pottery, guiding their vessels with long poles as currents carried them toward markets. The sound of water lapping against what became their companion. Steady and constant, on shore. Children ran alongside for a while, waving and calling out, until the boat slipped around bends and disappeared into distance. Where land roads slowed with mud or steep climbs, rivers offered smooth passage, flowing past villages, fields, and forests with unhurried grace. Temples, too, often rose beside rivers. The flowing water was seen as sacred, a purifier that carried away misfortune. Monks filled buckets at dawn, pouring clear water into stone basins for rituals. They watched how the current never ceased, never hesitated, and they spoke of it in their teachings. Life, like water, must keep moving, find its way around rocks, carving valleys with patience. Imagine yourself standing by such a river, hearing a monk's voice layered softly above a murmur of water, his words weaving with the sound until you cannot tell where speech ends and river song begins. By midday, riverbanks bustle with activity. Farmers led oxen to drink. Women washed vegetables in wicker baskets, and children splashed in the shallows, their laughter echoing across the valley. Small ferries carried travelers back and forth, guided by ferrymen whose arms grew strong from their endless work. Each crossing was a pause, a chance to rest, to feel the boat sway, to notice dragonflies hovering above rippling surfaces. Even samurai, when journeying, relied on these ferries. They would sit quietly, armor gleaming dully in sunlight, hands resting on knees, watching the current swirl beneath them. Duty and dignity followed them everywhere. Yet here on the river, they too surrendered to the patience of water. As you breathe slowly with me, imagine the cool spray of water on your skin. Picture reeds swaying gently at the edges, their stalks rustling in the breeze. Somewhere upriver, a water wheel turns, creaking steadily as it lifts water into wooden troughs that feed fields. This blending of natural flow and human ingenuity shows how rivers sustain not only bodies, but entire communities. Crops grew tall because of this borrowed water, markets thrived because goods traveled more easily, and stories spread because travelers shared news as they moved along. Stay with me, for rivers also held moments of celebration, During summer, lantern festivals filled the banks with glowing lights. Families lit paper lanterns, releasing them onto the current, watching them drift away like stars upon water. The reflections trembled softly, glowing red, gold, and orange in the darkness. People whispered prayers to ancestors, to the spirits of the river, to hopes for harvest or health. The air smelled faintly of smoke and incense, while distant music drifted from flutes and drums. It was beauty layered upon beauty. Fire meeting water, prayer meeting song, community meeting silence. But rivers, like all things, carried risks. Heavy rain swelled them. Currents grew fierce, and banks sometimes overflowed. Yet even in their strength, rivers reminded people of resilience. Villages rebuilt, fields were replanted, and boats returned to the water. The river always gave again, as if reminding humans of the balance between respect and dependence. And so, shrines were built nearby, offerings made regularly, rice, flowers, coins, tokens of gratitude for the endless flow. Night along the river was its own kind of lullaby. The day's work ended, fires dimmed, and the only sounds were the chorus of insects and the steady murmur of water. A traveler might camp by the bank, laying his head upon his bundle, listening to frogs croak and fish splash. The stars reflected faintly in the current, as if the sky itself had dipped down to join the flow. Imagine yourself there now, lying on a woven mat, wrapped in a cloak, the cool air brushing your face, the river whispering endlessly. Doesn't it feel safe, timeless, as though you could drift away with the current into dreams? Stay with me, because the story of rivers is also the story of connection. They linked samurai castles to markets, farmers' fields to distant temples, villages to the capital itself. They taught patience, carried burdens, reflected lantern light, and sang softly beneath the stars. In their flow, ancient Japan found both strength and gentleness. So as this chapter closes, picture one last image. A lone boat drifting at dusk, lantern hung from its bow, a fisherman guiding it slowly with a pole. The water ripples gold beneath the fading sun. The banks darken into shadow, and the current carries both the man and his boat forward, steady and sure. Tomorrow, we will walk once more into the sacred, the mountain temples where silence is not emptiness but fullness. But for tonight, let the river's endless murmur guide you into calm rest, flowing softly through the corridors of your dreams. High above the valleys, where the river seemed like silver threads winding between green slopes, temples stood quiet against the mountain air. To climb toward them was to leave behind the noise of the villages, the clatter of markets, and even the steady hum of rivers. With every step up the narrow paths, the world seemed to grow softer, the air cooler, and the silence deeper. Tonight, let us take this slow journey together, ascending into mountains where temples kept their long watch, and where samurai, monks, and villagers alike found moments of stillness. The climb began before dawn. Lantern light flickered against stone steps, showing the way through moss and roots. A traveler might pause, leaning on a staff, listening to the faint call of an owl and the rustle of small creatures in the undergrowth. The mountain path, though steep, was never rushed. Each step was deliberate, each breath deep. With every turn, the sky grew lighter, and when the horizon softened with the first glow of morning, the temple roofs finally appeared, curved, graceful, and serene against the pale sky. Stay with me, because this is where the story changes. In these high places, time itself seemed to move differently, as though days stretched longer and nights lingered more gently. The temple gates were often painted red. They were weathered by years of wind and snow. Passing beneath them was like stepping into another realm. Incense drifted from altars, mingling with the scent of cedar and pine. Monks moved silently across courtyards, robes brushing lightly against stone, their heads bowed in morning prayers. Bells sounded low and resonant, vibrating in the chest, calling not to hurry but to pause. You could imagine standing there, the bells' echo rolling across the valley like a slow wave, reminding you that stillness is a form of strength. Within the temple grounds, gardens unfolded with deliberate simplicity. Stones placed with care-formed winding paths. Ponds mirrored the sky, and carefully pruned pines leaned as though listening. Koi swam beneath the water's surface, their movement slow and unhurried, like living brushstrokes upon a canvas of green and gold. To walk in such a garden was to walk in rhythm with thought itself, each step an invitation to breathe more deeply. In a moment, you'll see how even samurai, whose lives are often filled with duty and readiness, came to these temples for balance. Samurai might climb the mountain paths, sword at their sides, yet their faces softened in these sacred spaces. Some came to seek counsel from monks, others to offer prayers for clarity or forgiveness. In the quiet of the temple hall, armor seemed less heavy, and the stillness of the monks reminded even warriors of the strength found in restraint. Imagine a samurai kneeling before a candlelit altar, the flicker of flame reflected in his eyes, his hand resting lightly upon his sword. In that moment, the blade was no longer a symbol of violence, but of discipline, of the balance between action and stillness. Stay close now, for this is where the mountain temples offered something rare. Retreat from the world below. Villagers climbed to give thanks for a harvest or to seek healing for loved ones. Merchants came to find peace before long journeys. Even poets and artists found inspiration in the quiet corridors, their ink strokes flowing more freely after hours spent in contemplation. The temple was not only a place of prayer, but of refuge. To enter was to be reminded that life was not only labor or duty or survival. It was also reflection, simplicity, and peace. Inside the main halls, lanterns glowed softly, their light golden against wooden beams. Tatama mats stretched across the floors, woven tightly, carrying the faint scent of straw. Monks chanted in low tones, their voices weaving together until they seemed like one single breath filling the entire space. The rhythm of their chanting was steady, almost like the river's murmur, but deeper, grounding, pulling all who listened into stillness. Picture yourself seated among them, eyes closed, the sound wrapping gently around you like a blanket. Outside, the mountains stretched endlessly. Clouds drifted below the peaks, so that at times the temple seemed to float above the world. Birds wheeled through the air, their calls distant, softened by altitude. The wind carried scents of pine, earth, and faint smoke from the kitchens where rice simmered quietly. Meals here were simple: steamed grains, fresh vegetables, pickled roots, warm broth, and they were eaten in silence, each bite a meditation. Monks spoke of gratitude with every meal, not in loud proclamations, but in bowed heads and mindful pauses. As you breathe slowly, imagine the cool stone beneath your feet, the hush of mountain wind brushing your face, and the soft glow of lanterns lighting a corridor. Each detail matters here, for the temple itself was a teaching, that beauty lies not in excess but in simplicity, that strength is not in loudness but in silence. And now, gently, we'll notice how these temples shape life below. The discipline learned here flowed into the villages, into the way samurai held themselves with dignity, into the way poets wrote of restraint and nature's fleeting moments. The mountains whispered down to the valleys, shaping hearts and habits alike. Stay with me a little longer, for the night at the temple is its own chapter of calm. After the sun set behind the peaks, shadows deepened across the courtyards. Lanterns glowed faintly, their flames trembling with each draft of air. The sound of the bell carried once more, low and steady, marking evening prayers. The monks walked slowly, their steps deliberate, as though time itself had grown heavy with peace. If you were to lie down on a futon here, the night would not be silent, but full of gentle sounds, the distant stream running down the mountain, the murmur of chanting, the faint rustle of robes. And so, mountain temples were not distant monuments, but living sanctuaries, places where discipline met serenity, where samurai found humility, and where ordinary villagers discovered extraordinary calm. They were reminders that life could slow, that stillness could heal, and that silence could be as powerful as any word. As this chapter closes, picture yourself standing once more at the temple gate. Behind you, the mountain path leads back to the valleys, the rivers, the villages. Ahead, the peaks rise higher still, crowned with clouds and mystery. Tomorrow, we will descend together into the world below, to see how festivals and daily joys wove color into the tapestry of life. But for tonight, let the temple silence remain within you, steady and deep, guiding your breath like the toll of a distant bell. When dawn arrived after a night in the temple, the world felt both new and timeless. The mist curled gently over the mountains, as though the clouds themselves had descended to wrap the earth in blankets of silver and pale blue. A bell tolled once more, low and resonant, marking not only the hour but the rhythm of life itself. And so, we find ourselves at the gentle close of our long journey through ancient Japan, where samurai walked with quiet purpose, temples kept their eternal watch, and villages thrived under the steady flow of seasons. Stay with me here, for in this final chapter we will gather all the threads, festivals, families, whispered prayers, and the echoes of time, and let them weave into one soft tapestry that rests easily in the heart. Down from the temple steps, villages stirred awake. Farmers led oxen to the fields, their wooden sandals crunching softly on the frosted ground. Children's laughter rose as they fetched water from the well, their voices carrying like sparrows across the rooftops. The smell of rice cooking drifted through the air, joined by the faint crackle of kindling in hearts. Life here was not grand, but it was rich in its own way, woven of patience, effort, and joy tucked into the corners of the everyday. In a moment, I will bring you to the festivals, but pause here with me, and notice the rhythm. The small hammering of a carpenter shaping a beam, the rustle of silk robes as women walked together toward the shrine, the sudden hush when the morning bell echoed across the valley. And then the festivals came. Streets bloomed with lanterns, their paper skins painted in soft reds and golds, glowing like captured stars. Stalls offered skewers of grilled fish, steaming rice cakes dusted with sweet flour, and fragrant cups of tea. Music drifted through the crowd, flutes and drums in gentle cadence, not hurried but steady, coaxing feet into slow dances beneath the night sky. Samurai walked among the villagers, their armor set aside for lighter garments, their faces softened in laughter. Children tugged at their sleeves, eager to see fireworks that painted the sky in shimmering arcs, though even these bursts were more like blossoms and thunder, unfolding softly against the darkness. Stay with me, because here's a gentle twist. Even in times often remembered for strict discipline and rigid roles, there was laughter, play, and color. The quiet seriousness of temples was balanced by the joy of festivals, and together they formed the pulse of ancient life. As you breathe deeply, picture yourself wandering through such a festival. The air is cool against your skin, yet warm by lantern light. The scent of roasted chestnuts mixes with the faint tang of ink from calligraphers offering to write wishes on slips of paper. Drums thrum like a heartbeat, steady and grounding, while the laughter of families ripples like streams. It was in these gatherings that people remembered they were not only workers or warriors, monks or merchants, but also companions in joy. By day's end, the quiet returned. Lanterns dimmed, stalls closed, and the streets emptied once more. Yet the glow lingered in hearts, like embers after a fire. In this balance of solemnity and celebration, of duty and joy, the people of ancient Japan found their rhythm. It is a rhythm you can hear even now. If you listen carefully, the slow breath of a nation that learned to live between mountains and sea, between silence and song. Let us sit together one last time in a wooden house, the paper walls glowing faintly in lamplight. A family gathers around a low table, bowls of rice steaming, miso broth fragrant, pickled vegetables tangy and bright. Chopsticks move quietly. Words are few, but the warmth of togetherness fills the space. Outside, snow drifts softly against the rooftops, muting the world, turning everything to stillness. A traveler might pass on the road, his lantern bobbing like a star between the trees, and from within the house he would see only the faint shadows of people at peace. That is how life ended each day, in quiet, in warmth, in simple rituals that whispered of gratitude. Stay with me just a little longer, because if temples taught the value of silence and samurai embodied the strength of discipline, then it was these daily rituals, these meals, these conversations, these small joys that made the heart of life. They were what kept families rooted, what reminded each person of their place not only in society, but in the embrace of time itself. To live was to belong, to share, to remember. And now, as our long journey together reaches its close, imagine yourself walking once more along the narrow path between rice fields, the lantern in your hand glowing softly against the night. The moon rises over distant mountains, silver light falling across the water. Frogs croak faintly, reeds whisper, and the air is cool with promise. You pause, looking back toward the village, hearing the last faint notes of a flute carried on the breeze. Ahead lies the unknown, But behind you lies a memory of all we've traveled through. Temples glowing in mountain mists, samurai bowing with calm dignity, poets scribbling verses by candlelight, and families gathered around warm meals. In this gentle outro, let the stories settle in you like falling snow, soft, unhurried, timeless. Each detail we have explored together is not lost. It drifts downward, layer upon layer, forming a landscape you can return to whenever you wish. And when sleep finally gathers you in its quiet arms, it will be like stepping once more beneath the temple gates, where silence is peace, where stillness is strength, and where the night is endless yet kind. Thank you for keeping me company on this long journey through ancient Japan. As you rest, know that there are more stories waiting, gentle and unhurried, each one like another lantern glowing against the dark. You may follow them when you're ready, but for now, let this one linger as a soft companion to your dreams.